The following is brought to you in part by a grant from the Foundation for White Wellbeing.
Honkies, at least that's what they call them in the South. And that would be a form of anti-whiteism. But now the dictionary, actually has a definition for anti-whiteism: prejudice or discriminating against or hostile towards white people. And I believe that's positive to have a definition, a dictionary definition, because a discrimination can take place against white people. That there's a lot of hatred towards white people. We hear about the hatred towards racial and ethnic minorities, but there's a lot of anti-whiteism that takes place across America, and it should be on equal level with blackness or anti-Hispanic or anti-Muslim, anything that's based on prejudice, that's irrational. White is just like any other racial or ethnic group. And many of the things that the progressives attribute to whiteness, it's really Western civilization that's under attack. And with the Smithsonian, they have argued at times that if you plan for the future, you get to places on time, if you believe in hard work, the math that you have to take in school to qualify for almost any type of occupation, that's racist. And just imagine and think about how dangerous that is. Because if you get large numbers of racial and ethnic minorities believing that math is racist, working hard is racist, getting to places on time is racist, that all of this is whiteness and that whiteness should be rejected, you are dooming millions of young people to failure if you're telling them that whiteness is evil and that all of these things that make for success, that people like me had to do to be successful, that somehow that's whiteness, somehow that's evil. This anti-whiteness, that's what it is, anti-whiteism. It's destructive. It's related to Marxism. It's part of conflict theory. And one of the things that really troubles me as a person that loves all people is to see the bullying and shaming of little white children that's taking place in public schools under the guise of critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is wrong. And it's important for all of us to stand up and call it out when we see it.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, their bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Livia Key, ladies and gentlemen, gorgeous voice, fantastic. Happy Independence Day. Great to see you all. We're rolling in. Let your friends know that we've rolled in or no one will show up. The shadow banning is that bad. Great to see everybody, though, that does show up. We're going to be talking a little bit about, I think there was some questions also. Maybe I should just jump right into the questions of this Supreme Court ruling relative to Donald Trump and what it means, especially since they're all talking about assassination teams. But question of the day, what are you going to be doing for Independence Day? Or maybe the question of the day should be, in addition to that, what would you rather be able to speak all the languages of planet Earth or be able to speak to animals? What would you rather have? What are you going to be doing on this Independence Day? And I was hearing a couple different content creators, interesting, over the past week, advising their audiences to not engage in political, socio-political conversations over the course of this Independence Day. And of course, that's where America and the totality of the West was lost, was because we lost the arguments, the moral arguments with our family members and with our friends. So they'll, depending upon the content creator that I saw, they were making different motivations, different reasons for why you shouldn't do that. Things like, well, your family is so important, your friends are very meaningful. Look, none of that's going to matter in short order for those you actually care about, friends or family members. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Those relationships are not going to matter because we're going to all live in hell. And the hell is washing up sewage style everywhere we live, and worse by the month now. So no, engage in these conversations and do it morally. Do it as we teach here. And that's the problem with a lot of other content creators, maybe all other content creators indeed, is that what they teach, what they advocate, the vehicles, the ideologies are offensive, oppressive, tyrannical, and playing the villain in the anti-white narrative. And so when you raise these things, that's why they're always saying, like, hide your power level. You don't have to hide your power level here. No, in fact, take your power level to the world, do it morally, and then insist on those in your world to be moral as well. That is how we win. The battlefield is the Independence Day picnic. The battlefield is the Independence Day barbecue. The battlefield is the family get-togethers, the friend get-together. That's the battle. Where do you think the battle is being fought? Where was it lost? It was lost in those environments. That's where anti-whiteism, that's where that the immoral but moral phenomenon of anti-whiteism defeated Western civilization at every dinner table. And so every picnic table, that's where the battles were lost. So absolutely. And you can do it. That's why I created the stratagem to work in a way that you can throttle it up and throttle it down. So you can throttle it back and you can say, Aunt Marge, that's pretty anti-white of you. I don't see you as an anti-white person. And so I really wish that you would hold a position that treats everyone fairly. And that's more in the keeping of how I see you. And then you can move on to other subject matter. Let them retreat with their tail between their legs. What in the world is going on? All these several content creators. When you're with your family this Independence Day, whatever you do, don't talk about the destruction of America and Americana in your hometown, and whatever you do, don't talk about those things because you'll offend the sensibilities of people who hate you, of people who hate Western civilization. No, just come back here after it's all over and then you can complain and we can all complain because that's the substance of what we do in fighting for America and the West. Good heavens. So, heed what we have to say here. Ignore these other content creators. The West is on the ropes. It's dizzy. It's bleary-eyed. Weak-kneed. We got noodle legs underneath of us. We're pawing for the ground with our feet. There's no more time for, let's just make sure that Aunt Marge doesn't get perturbed. No, Aunt Marge. All right? Grr. Go ahead. If she's a real battle axe of a bitch, say, look, you're really anti-white as all hell. It's if we weren't related. Can you imagine? I can't even fathom my entire life since I was even a child. I can't even fathom being of the mind that you're like, I'm going to put my relationship with Aunt Marge ahead of the well-being of my people. No wonder we're in this situation. No wonder. No wonder it's so bad. No wonder you have like open fucking sex acts taking place on city streets between people of the same sex. So many of these videos coming out, open sex acts, and the police are like, well, we're going to choose our battles. Choose your battles. That's how we get to this place. Because we're worried about Aunt Marge, the battle axe. Esoteric Truth says, I recommended your channel to several people today, but I'm not sure if they already follow you or not. I told them that your message is more positive for our people and to ignore the boy gropers. The boy groypers. Well, thank you. There are good people, unfortunately, bamboozled in that community. And I understand how it's like alcoholism, where there is a crowd. It's like human beings are like, something must, especially people who are followers. What's interesting about that particular community, but it's the same with all similar communities, much larger ones as well, like the Salty Cracker, for example, character. But what's interesting is seeing a large group of people and then concluding that there must be acuity and veracity and correctness and the truth must be present is a follower behavior. And it's more that kind of a behavior I see more often in females. And it makes sense, genetically speaking. When females, in the vast majority of human existence, it's like, if this is human existence, then it's like this much of it was not like what I'm about to say. And what I'm about to say is that during the rest of it, when females would say, screw you, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm going to be contradictory, I'm going to be a pain in the ass, they died, right? They just got thrown out of the community, thrown out of the tribe, thrown out of the village, thrown out of the town. And they couldn't live on their own. It wasn't like a bunch of guys who could say, no, we disagree with this, we're leaving. They could go, a single guy could go leave and live and start a whole new village, start a whole new town, start a whole new tribe. But women, no. So genetically, those women who were contentious, they were curmudgeonly, they died. They died. So they end up being big followers. That's why fashion is so important to them. Like, what does everybody think? And when you're a boy, you remember this, you guys out there, when you were a boy and you found out, they're like, why the hell do they give a shit? Why is it so important to them? What everybody else is thinking. But there was like this like zombie, like, I don't know, how do you want to put this? Maybe like this singleness of thought. They were just like, I've got to know what the others think. And we were like, who cares? But you find this follower behavior in these larger communities. They just see a big community and they're attracted to it. And so it might be that a lot of these guys who are in these kinds of communities are more on the feminine side. They have less masculinity. And you all can give me, your assessment if you think that that's an accurate statement for the majority of these people. But I think that there are good folks in that community and in others, and they just get absorbed by the Borg, and they think something's happening because there are people present when really no good is being done. And whereas here, the special forces, you have to be a self-starter, a self-motivator. That takes courage. That takes masculinity. That takes a lot of the traits that are associated with men of the West. So let's hope that they come away from those communities. The great Fornall is here. Wonderful to see you, brother. Anglo-Saxon and WG. Kupapa J Magic. Ivan the Horrible. Hyperborean Dream. J Bishop. Bob's Dole Bananas, Promethean Kitchen. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. One person blocked me today after I tagged them regarding your stream, says Esoteric Truth. Well, that's a big pattern is here. Hello to you. A big part of that is the multiracial Jew haters out there slandering me because I won't turn my attention and drive and desire away from white well-being and toward hating Jews. We oppose anti-whites of all flavors, including Jews. So the objection to me and this community and what we do is that we just won't give up white well-being and hate Jews. That's the objection. Since we object to anti-white Jews along with all other anti-whites out there, what's left is that you care about white people? What is wrong with you? Anyhow, so there's this immunity that the Supreme Court, a couple of big cases that the Supreme Court spitted out recently. The Chevron deference case is a big one because the courts, if you weren't aware of this, you know, the shysters in DC have set up all of this bureaucracy, and they've empowered them in a way that is, by my opinion and maybe others, unconstitutional, in that these duties are supposed to be the duties of the people we elect, that these bureaucracies have the power and it's black box power. So you can't know who's behind the decisions. You can't know what the reasoning is. You can't appeal the decisions. That's what they've done. And I guarantee you the founding fathers would execute all of the bureaucracy people, in my opinion. I mean, they would say, they would probably give them an opportunity. You're fired, you can leave, or if you try to stick around, we'll kill you. That's probably what would happen. So the law said, until this finding, that the courts had to defer to the bureaucracies. Can you imagine? That put the what branch of government was that again? That put the bureaucracies above the courts. And then technically also above Congress. How can they be allowed to? I mean, it's so fucking corrupt. You really need an Andrew Jackson to go through there with a M60 and belt-fed belts of ammo just rolled around the arm and just and just firing off butterflies of love in every direction to clean out the corruption. I mean, especially on this Independence. So why do we celebrate Independence Day? Why is it that it's been dumbed down to July 4? What is even July 4? It's the 4th. You go celebrate the 4th? No, I'm going to celebrate Independence Day. Now, I understand. In most cases, you're like, well, you know, it's for simplicity. And, you know, if you're going to be just like checking out at the Aldi or whatever it is, and you're on your way out, it's easier to just say happy 4th or whatever it is than happy Independence Day. I get it. But I try to make the effort to say Independence Day because it speaks to the birth of the nation and therefore what our founding fathers meant and what they were doing, what they were trying to achieve. And this colossal bureaucratic bullshit with these apparatchiks who make these sweeping decisions that judges all across the country have been deferring to, that Congress has been able to, your so-called elected representatives, especially the of the Republican variety, because many people who are going to be objecting to the anti-whiteism are going to be Republican voters, that they love him because they can say, well, what can I do? What can I do? You know, the bureaucracy. And so you still got to vote and give me your money and vote for me and everything. And so but what can I actually do here for you? Because there's a bureaucracy. It's an easy way to unshoulder that blame and that responsibility, isn't it? I mean, it's just the corruption is so deep. This is why a long time ago, in all of these conversations, I outright said to these people in all of these meetings and conferences, I was just like, why are you then trying to address this socio-politically? Why, but more so on the political side? Why are you trying, or culturally, politically? Why are you even trying? You know this superstructure is in place. You can articulate all of the names and all of the places and all of the dates when it was started, who started it, what was the intrigue behind all of this, and how impenetrable it is. And you want to get somebody elected? And then we also have the evidence of the people who are elected being stymied and shut down and assassinated, or potentially assassinated, depending on your reading of history, jailed, nothing they can do. But let's go back to that. And then I do this, and then I do all of this with the Go Free stratagem, and I explain it all to people, and people come by and they listen. Esoteric Truth is telling them to come by. They come by and listen, like, I don't want any more of that. Nah, I don't want actual remedies. I don't want to address this where the problem is. I want to go fool around with things that have already been tried and lost infinitely and proven to be failures. That's what I want to go do. Let's just go get some more people into the bureaucracy. Let's get more people into they're actually advocating once again. I mean, can you believe this? People advocating getting into the Republican Party to influence it. People advocating getting into the Trump administration to influence. Can you believe this? Can you absolutely drunkenly doped up on heroin believe this nonsense? That there are still people that they're insufferable dolts. And the only thing that's worse than the people that advocate such things are the people who believe them and who follow them and are like, this is just the way to go. This person is princely. This is the way to go. It's amazing. It's amazing. So Chevron deference says that the courts no longer have to just defer to the bureaucracies. That's kind of a big finding. They know, but there's a deeper problem there, of course, because I worked in around courts, and I know that the laws, the interpretation, the application, the inapplication is all driven by something else. The social morality. And so that's where you have to get. That's where the battle is actually fought and lost in the West, the place where we can fight it and win. And we've shown to win. So if you're with me this far, you're new, maybe you're watching this live or in replay, then you're in the right place, because nothing else works. Nothing else works. So what's going on with the immunity really quickly, and we'll hop on to Fox News. And I think it was McEnany she was on. Actually, she was doing kind of a superb job filling in for Waters on his brain. And what was it, yesterday, I guess. And we'll get into that in a moment. But first, what's going on with the immunity? The Democrats are talking about, well, it's total immunity. He can now assassinate the opposition, and it's just total nonsense. Very simply, the Supreme Court said that the president enjoys 3 levels of immunity. The first is constitutional acts, for which the president has full immunity. The Supreme Court, let me just also start off by saying this. The problem here, if there is going to be a problem in the future, and there will be when Democrats get back in office, the problem here is that none of this had to be said. None of this had to be put into law until anti-whites in the Democrat Party decided to use lawfare against their political opponent. So by using lawfare, which of course is something, remember, we talk about all the time, it's not what's written down, it's the interpretation, the interpreter. And what motivates the interpretation and interpreter? Well, the moral tapestry of society that he or she has to deal with and is also informed with or infected with, depending upon the point of view. How am I not like paid 7 figures a year and enjoy colossal size audiences? I mean, how? The world is so upside down. Anyhow, If I had only said, spit on a Johnson, if I had only been that smart, spit on a Johnson, that's what you got to do, and had my teeth stick out. I don't know if her teeth actually, it might have just been the angle of the camera. But anyhow, if I had only shared sage wisdom like that, spit on Johnson. But anyhow, so the moral tapestry, the social morality, which unfortunately far too late, our people too dumb, not coming together, didn't get that. And really it was, you can't really blame the power holders in the white race in the past, because what did they have to work with? Even when they would have recognized, I'm sure people like Henry Ford and many others, Edison, I'm sure they realized, wait, all of the other forms of promulgating a social morality are outdated now that there is media. This is it. This can defeat all of the other things, religion for thousands of years, everything else. This can create the social morality. And what did they have to work with, though? Look at the white race. It's a joke. It's a joke. A bunch of this isolated, atomized, selfish, individualist pricks. That's what the white race is. Face it. So that's what they had to work with. Now, if you were one of the oligarchs or one of the wealthy of the Jewish race, or of Arab people, or of Asian people, and you look down at your community and they have this individual well-being by way of group well-being mentality, a percentage, not all of any group as anything. Could you imagine how much more power that is? How did the white race get displaced? How did the authority in Western civilization, how does it fall so firmly into the hands of both individual whites, individualized, selfish, individualized whites, and then groups? How did that happen? Because white leaders don't have a people, and then they don't even have a people to work with if they wanted to use a people to even enrich and empower themselves or to defend. So here you have this social morality creating machinery in media, news and entertainment. And so naturally it was going to fall into the hands, primarily into the hands of people who act as groups rather than people who act as individuals. So here you have the interpretation, and that's what's driving the interpretation of the laws of the land. And beyond this, you end up with the phenomenon of anti-whiteism driving people who want to destroy, wipe out, eradicate anyone who gets in the way of anti-whiteism, no matter how heretical they are, even unintentional heresy. They're like, gotta go, you've got to be wiped out, i.e. Donald Trump. And so they say, well, we're just going to interpret these laws, no matter how unethical it is, no matter how, because every single thing can't be articulated, every single place. When this, why that, why not the other? It just can't be that way. I mean, for one reason, we already are infinitely beyond the capacity of the human animal to imbibe all this information, sort it, and apply it. What can, what can't, why not this, why for that? Already been well beyond for a long time. And so the anti-whites, they look out at the legal structure and they say, well, we will creatively use this interpretation of this law or that law, and then we will use this, what has been now termed, and for some time termed, lawfare. And as a consequence, using lawfare against their opposition, a political opposition, and also a long history of lawfare. I mean, it's not new. It's not newly being used on Donald Trump, right? So there's long history of lawfare. Now it's being used on Trump. And therefore, it's going to percolate to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has to rule. They have to say something. So something that was otherwise left nebulous, because and therefore up to multiple interpretations, and therefore in multiple interpretations on the side of how can I say, interpreting conservatively. And I don't mean in the sense of conservative politics. So in other words, if you have a gray area on this side of what appears to be error, then the prospect of getting to the other side of error, deep error, big danger, is very unlikely, because you have all of this population on this side with this like social gray area morass that wild ideas can't move through to get to the other side of things getting really bad. Once you have to articulate things, what have you done? So the decision by the Supreme Court today, you go ahead and cut this out. In years, not long, not decades, in years, the Democrats will be using the interpretation of the Supreme Court to crush adversaries. And the Republicans will be crying like beaten dogs about how this is not an honest or a fair interpretation of the Supreme Court's ruling all the way back in 2024. You mark my words. You have now set verbiage that they can look at and interpret any way they want. The court, of course, has said, and that's what I'll get to. I said all of that just to share my genius, so that you all can take it into your Independence Day celebrations and you can share it. And then you can all wonder, like, why aren't there 10,000 people watching live right now? But there are 3 levels of immunity for the president. Number 1, absolute immunity. Only for constitutional duties. So, not rape. Nancy Pelosi or whoever we're saying these crazy things. Not rape. Not SEAL Team 6 assassination. Absolute immunity for constitutional duties. The next tier, presumptive immunity for official duties. How do they determine what's official? Very easily. And this is how the courts will look at it. Does prohibiting the behavior or penalizing the behavior, punishing the behavior, undermine the duties, the official duties of the presidency? Does that make sense? So the president engages in an official act, presumptively official and immune. And if called into question, they will analyze the act and say, if we were to penalize this act, would it undermine the president's duties? So, should be, for honest people, for intellectually honest people, it should be kind of clear cut, but there won't be intellectually honest people interpreting it in the future. Rest assured. So, you'll see in the future, they'll take, can you imagine this ruling? The Democrats are howling right now. Behind closed doors, they are salivating, and they've got like a 6-inch long forked tongue coming out of their mouths, licking over their fangs. What would they have done for Patriots Day with this power? Protecting the country from insurrection. So it was, remember, how did it happen? How did we get to this Supreme Court having to review this and rule on it? Because the anti-whites in the Democrat Party practicing lawfare. What informs lawfare? What enables and allows lawfare? The social morality of your society. What's the social morality of our society? The anti-white, immoral, moral imperative. Where does it come from? It is inflicted on us by the phenomenon of anti-whiteism, articulated by anti-whites. Since anti-whiteism is a phenomenon, not a people or a place, you have to address the phenomenon. What is the phenomenon? It is a set of ideas and a story, anti-white narrative, empowered with psychological warfare, of which we observed, studied, and created a strategy to defeat. The white positive morality, the go free stratagem. We've demonstrated that for decades and in spades since we have been online 7 years. And all of it, each of these victories, replicable and scalable. You're welcome, world. The third level, and we will turn on Fox. I'll see what y'all are having to say. Happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day. The third level is unofficial acts for which there is no immunity. Very simple. It's very straightforward, I feel. But get ready. If you haven't heard anybody talking about how this is going to come back to be this tyrannical decision that can be used for the blackest tyranny that you could fathom. Get ready for people to be talking about that in the future. Way behind yours truly. Way behind yours truly. But that's okay. They won't call me up. No, I'm not bitter at all. They won't call to apologize. They won't say, wow, you're a soothsayer. I'm going to have you on to talk to the 100,000 that my entertainment value brings in. No, they say, hey, folks, guess who I got here? Hawk on the Johnson girl. It's hell. This is a ring of hell. This is actually a ring of hell. I saw Dante just go by. There you go. There he is. Dante. This is absolutely a ring of hell. What do you think about the whole Tommy Robinson situation in Canada? Tell me about it. Promethean Kitchen asks. Great to see you. Was there a Canada Day? Can our great brothers and the once sisters in our once great country of Canada talk about going down the shitter? Canada, our once great country of Canada. Beautiful country, massive natural resources. Our people are just stunning. They're beautiful people and very smart people, funny people. And look at it now. Just sad. You could be dying and you're going to get on a waiting list for like 55 years for healthcare, while every newcomer, every particularly non-white newcomer, is ushered right in to get medical treatment. At least this is my observation from where I sit in the once great state of Virginia. My binoculars are powerful, though. I peer in. Yeah, let me know what's going on there. I didn't hear what's going on. Tommy Robinson, why is he in Canada? I tagged Owen Schroyer about your stream, but will they acknowledge it, says Esoteric Truth. Well, thank you so much for trying, and keep trying, folks. Keep trying. It's all we can do. Esoteric Truth goes on, I include Candace among the multiracial groypers, the boy groypers. I don't know that she has any connection to them, but okay, fair enough. I don't watch her very much, or I mean, really at all. I mean, I have seen clips of hers. I don't watch her shows at all. I find it, another aspect of the ring of hell that we are in, that so many white people will heed the words of a black woman, wonderful though she might be, Christian though she might be, whatever, whatever it might be, and totally ignore masculine white leadership, masculine white heroes. So it's just like obvious hell. I think that if she really did love Western civilization, she would be giving time to people like me, to people like this community, because of the success we're having for it, because we look like the founding fathers. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, why are all these new Americans, if you will, why is it that, what, do they feel no connection to the founding fathers, and that's why they don't like masculine guys like me who are out speaking against this? It's amazing. They're just like feeling their oats. They're like, it's our day to live high on the hog. All these white people just want to hear from the non-whites and the females. The females is Azimuth Clark is here. Great to see you, brother. Nameless one. Hello. Yeah, Schroyer. He can talk to Lily right away, but we can change the conversation about the victimization of white people. No interest. Linda, great to see you. Samuski. Wonderful to see you. Caleb, hey, what's going on, brother? It's been too long. Caleb says he's been looking all over Virginia and he can't find any white guilt. Great to see you, man. Happy Independence Day. I support self-optimization, but that's not the same as selfish individualism. Yeah, precisely. No, they're not the same. No, not at all. No, the fundamentally, selfish individualism seeks individual well-being by way of individual well-being. That's the problem. We have to seek individual well-being by way of group well-being. That is the success strategy. That is the victory strategy for the human animal. And it's got to be, and the most powerful basis for it is biospirit, instinct. That's the most powerful basis for it. Not a fraternity, not a club, not any of this, not a state, not an ethnicity, it's got to be biospiritually. That is the most powerful basis for it, because then you have a genetic connection to your well-being. Everything else is built on top, is superficial. Donning Armor, great to see you. Social Thinker LG is here. Hello and welcome. White people did have individual well-being by way of group well-being. It was called the Nordic racial spirit. And whatever, and this is, you're making a statement about the past. And for me, what I've done for all these years is I say, where are we today? So something went wrong, something was defeated, and so we need to address where we are today. That might be a very interesting period to study in one's spare time, but we have to address who we are today, where we are today, what we need today to come together as a single people with many countries around the world, as a victimized people, and move forward. But I've heard, talks over the years about different periods and different claims, and there are some interesting tales. First Last is with us. Great to see you, brother. Sam Muski says, I see more and more of our people out on the streets, addicted, sick, and dying to fentanyl. My heart breaks to see them in such a state. To think I am one step from being in their shoes. Oh, exactly, brother. God bless you for thinking about them. Really, God bless you for thinking about them. We all are. We all are one step away from that. Into anti-whiteism is here. Great to see you. Says Candace Owens for president of Nigeria. I agree. Esoteric Truth saying Lily is a vague on our side. Well, I would. She's obviously being hit up at all sides, by all sides, and so you're not really gonna. If you go to Lily now, I mean, getting in her comments and dropping the lexicon, 100% powerful, but like me trying to get her attention and talk to her about white well-being, talk with her about using the lexicon just like one-on-one or something like this, it's going to be just absolutely a non-starter. She's going to have untold number of guys, for one thing, that are going to be trying to come on to her. They're going to have money, some of them. They're going to have fame or popularity to offer her. They're going to have, and so it's just going to be another voice in the wilderness of what she's here, in the cacophony, in the den, in the stridency of all of the guys who are getting. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to like pull up a stool with a bunch of other guys around a girl. I'm just like, nah, like that. Let her run after me. Then I'll share. But yeah, otherwise, getting into those comments with the dialectics, the lexicon can be very powerful. Can Emily Yukis be taught the Go Free message? No, I do not think so. Bob's Dole Banana says pedantry is their standard. Exactly. Sophistry, lies, and propaganda, 100%. Pedantic pedantry. That's what I got so sick of. But a lot of, apparently, morons, they like to sit around and just listen to that garbage. Yukis is, of course, married to a popular Nazi. And even though his Nazi party fell apart recently, only after a few years of existence, and then a shit ton of them just got doxxed, scores and scores of them. So she's also, made lots of comments, nasty comments that are villain role playing type of comments. So no, I don't think she would be interested at all in going free. Regrettably, I wish we could save everybody. I wish we could redeem everybody. Yes, Rebecca, a blonde in the belly of the beast, had her on. I do know Rebecca. I've had Rebecca on this channel, and I like Rebecca. I've known her for years and years now. Blonde in the belly of the beast, very nice woman. Knew her before she was even married or pregnant, and so very nice person. Like so many content creators, she is at the whim of her audience. And a lot of her audience, you can just look in the comments there, and not even to mention the private messages that must be coming in. You can just look at the comments and see what they're demanding. And what the comments in her audience and the comments is so many of these others are these multiracial Jew-hating movement. And so they demand Jew haters. And they not only do they demand that Jew haters be brought on, but they fluff them up. They talk about how awesome they are so they're talking to Rebecca and her audience about, Eucas is just amazing. And then as the content creator wants to have an audience, wants to have an income, the content creator is going to reflect the will of the audience. So this person's amazing. The audience is saying there, I'm having the person on that you want, stick around here, keep sending in the dollars. At the same time, this massive Jew-hating, multiracial Jew-hating community, they will also say, not this person, don't have that person on. This person is awful. Who are they talking about? Anybody who doesn't want to give up white well-being for Jew-hating. Yours truly. So that is how the Jew hater, the multiracial Jew haters, have destroyed every white positive movement that has ever gotten started. Every white positive idea, even any idea pushing back against the degeneracy of anti-whiteism in any of its multifarious forms. Anywhere it gets started, if they perceive popularity, if they perceive interest, then they show up. And once they show up, they demand that everything get dropped in favor of hating Jews. And once that happens, it dies. So would it make sense for somebody like Rebecca to have me on when so much of her audience is going to be upset with her for doing that? When Red Ice had me on at the end of last year, beginning of this year, you could see their live chat. I mean, these multiracial Jew haters went apeshit. Why are you having him? Don't you know he's a Jew? Don't you know he's a Fed? What's wrong with you, Red Ice? So that's how they destroy everything. Anti-whiteism ends with you asking about Texas conservative Texas chick. I don't know where she is. She disappeared a while back. Marilyn is here. Hello. Happy Independence Day to you. Melody Dawn. Happy Independence Day to you. I would do another show with Adam. Yeah. He's a legitimate researcher. He also rejects the multiracial Jew-hating community, which is why, but he has to walk a weird balance with these people because he has legitimate research he does into particular religious factions of that community. And then having to like juggle that against the people who are just like saying things like, get rid of all the Jews. And if you just didn't have Jews, everything would be fine. It would be fine. Just like every time that they were thrown out of a country and then brought right back in. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe, 100 and whatever times is enough evidence for me. I don't know, like if you are trying to hammer a nail into something and the nail just keeps bending. For me, it's like at the fourth nail, I'm like, maybe something, I got to investigate here more. Something ain't right. By the 107th nail, funny. Hey, but that's the world. That is the world. What is going to happen with Joe Biden? You know what else I want to take a look at while we're together is Bulldog Boris wrote some interesting comments in the thread about, let's see, white privilege and affirmative action. Some interesting thoughts that since we're doers rather than just observers, that we can share and talk about. I thought they were pretty smart. Anglo-Saxon NWG says, Garrett, make sure to tag Jason. Oh, okay. Add symbol no white gill with your question, so he sees it. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Anglo-Saxon NWG. I don't suck at life. Janice is here. Great to see you. Where's Franklin? Yes, where is Franklin? Rory is here. Okay. So Garrett is asking about Edward Dutton. Like, would I have him on, or would I appear with him? Sure, I've appeared with him before. He's a funny guy, and his talk about the spiteful mutants is interesting. I think you know what? I haven't seen a ton of his material, so I won't say much beyond that. But I find the spiteful mutants, there is a genetic component. The mutants, the people who are, and what do we call them here? I mean, that sort of thinking fits into the go free stratagem. You have folks in the world. What do we say when we talk about white anti-whites? You know, I don't know if he's referring to non-white people when he talks about spiteful mutants, but white anti-whites do not feel a connection to our people. They are jealous and envious, and those are the motivators of anti-whiteism for everyone who's anti-white. And it's for various reasons: beauty, wealth, and it's also their perception, not necessarily objective reality. Could be objective reality: wealth, health, beauty, longevity, on and on. Musical talent, singing talent, writing talent, whatever it is. And so they seek to damage, as any anti-white does, to harm Western kind because of their proximity, what they see as their nearness to it, but then lack of connection to it. And that's why some of the most vicious anti-whites, some of the most painful anti-white creations are from white anti-whites, because they can sense, to whatever degree, the biospirit of our people, the instinct, and with their twisted mind, they invert what is harmonious for us. And so you clearly see this in most saliently, like in the ranks of the more leftist voters, of the white people. They're ugly, they're fat, they're deranged, they're sick, etc. So I see some confluence there with at least that part of his thinking. I don't know of the rest of it. I know he's a funny guy, though. He refers mostly to white anti-whites and how this moral disease can spread throughout society. Well, it sounds like I have kind of a correct take. And like I say, then there's a confluence there. What he is referring to, these spiteful mutants, then from the lens of Go Free, is the white anti-white. And makes perfect sense. You all can still, please do, in fact, tag me @ words no white guilt. You can have a space. You can put them side by side. It doesn't matter. It'll turn color for me. You could do it on Twitter in the comment section. You could do it on Twitter under the live stream and retweet the live stream. Why not? Twitter never got back to me. I pay Twitter a lot for advertising. So I spoke to my contact there about, hey, I know I'm shadow banned and it's gotten worse recently. So if I'm paying you all, let's get rid of the shadow banning, or at least dial it back. No response. So maybe try to share it. That'd be nice. You could write there. You could write on over at Rumble, which is up and running. and tag me there. You can also financially gift on Rumble. You can tag me on over at D Live, and you can also financially gift me there. And you can tag me on over at Odyssey, and you can financially gift me there. You can also financially gift over the course of the Roll-In Gathering on Entropy, which is up and running. You can financially gift over at Cash App and Subscribestar. Both are up and running as well. If you would like to financially gift with a tax exemption, the Foundation for whitewellbeing.com or .org is where you would do that. The aforementioned platforms I will be looking at. You can also, you can monthly financially gift without thinking about it at all. It's Subscribestar, Gumroad, and check out your options at nowhiteguilt.org. Click on the financial gift tab and you'll see the options. You'll also see the cryptocurrency wallet options. If you're going to financially gift in a cryptocurrency, try a smaller maybe gift at first and let me see it the subsequent stream or 2 streams and celebrate it. And there's also a snail mail address that you can reach out to me at. I appreciate it. Garrett says he recently found my channel from clips shared around on Instagram. Well, it was probably a clip made by No White Guilt Clips. So big folks, it works. I mean, thank you for sharing that, Garrett. I really appreciate it, for letting us know. And welcome to you. Got any questions? Don't hesitate to ask. We are a community that has massive successes, and we celebrate them every Sunday. We have what we call a swashbuckling period of the gathering on Sundays, which starts at 5 Eastern Standard Time. And we celebrate people's victories, sharing the lexicon and dialectics. And there are tons of champions in the live chat who also will answer questions with you if I somehow end up missing something that you are interested in. But welcome, sir. Welcome to you for joining us. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and look at Fox News. What's going to happen with Biden? And are they going to keep him? Are they going to get rid of him? Is it big news? Is it fake news? Are they just trying to whip up some news so that people will turn on the channel and they can make more money from their advertisers? I don't know. We talked on Sunday about the difficulty, the challenges, and I guess also to replacing him. And they are varied and they're from multiple directions. But I guess I'll say from the outset that if they were going to replace Biden, then it's obviously going to have to be arbitrary. It's going to have to be very powerful individuals from behind the DNC, and they would probably, or potentially, at least it seems intriguing, force on us, and part of the reason for the particular choice, which is in the title, is to conceal or to massage or to assuage concerns about the massive law breaking and rule breaking in the DNC, to foist on the Democrat Party and therefore the nation a brand new ticket: Kamala for president, Michelle Obama for vice president. That would seem to me people would be focused entirely on the ticket and how outrageous it is and how wild it is. They would ignore all of the rules that were broken, laws in states that were broken, because we have the problems of getting on ballots, for which the Republican Party will surely sue. We have the problem of the money. Biden, finance law prevents Biden from just handing it over. We have the problem of the delegates and how they have already pledged themselves to Biden, and how will they suddenly be compelled? I mean, what team could unite the delegates. You have Democrat delegates that are more of like old school, like going back to like the 70s, 80s mentality, where it's like Democrats are blue collar when they obviously don't give a shit. But you still have those people. And then you have like the most fanatical anti-whites. Like, what direction would they go? What could shut them all up? Well, Kamala is first in line. If you didn't go with Kamala, then the whole black race, that's hyperbole. It's exaggeration, but it's warranted. The whole black race would not vote Democrat. And then there would be a giant chunk of the white anti-whites who would not vote either, because they get off on their white guilt and victimizing white people. And that would just be like, whoa. So they're going to have Kamala. Now, the only way they're going to have Kamala, not have her, would be to compel her son. And it could be possible, to go to her with tons of money and say, hey, look, here's shit tons of money. Say you don't want to be president. That's possible. Then they could say something like, well, our only choice then is Gretchen or whatever. But I don't think. I think the most wild change would be Kamala and Michelle Obama. And I understand from a couple of years now back that Michelle Obama legitimately had no interest in being president, but vice president, there really is not a lot to do. So maybe that would be okay for her. Maybe she would be okay with the fewer duties of vice president. I don't know. But I think the money is still on Biden going the distance. And all of the ado right now is the reality that organizations are populated by individuals, and they're not of a hive mind. And when you anthropomorphize them, you always get the equation wrong. Anglo-Saxon with what is that, like a finishing flag at the racetrack? So I'm going to keep my eyes open for what you all are saying and sharing and doing. Remember the question of the day, if you would tag me, if you would like me to read it. Would you rather be able to speak all of the languages on planet Earth or be able to communicate with animals? And let me know why. Until then.
Well, this is a Fox News alert. The pressure campaign on the president to remove himself from the ticket is reaching a fever pitch. We've been seeing it all day long. But now some top Democrats telling CNN they want this done by the end of the week.
The dam is breaking, Jake. Top Democratic leaders, former administration officials, current administration officials, major donors are all telling us privately, and now we're hearing it publicly, that they think that President Biden needs to step aside for the good of the party, for the good of the country.
Just think there for a moment about these Democrats. Maybe they are basic bitch typists, reporters, or big donors. And they look at the train wreck that they knew he was not well. They don't care. They keep acting like, whoa, we just found out. I mean, how did you just find out? How did you not know? He was having these big gaffes all the way back during the last election. And he was able, with whatever cocktail it was, to come lucid for a while. You all remember this. He would suddenly wake up, but then you would see these gaffes. And so, of course, everyone knew. Of course, all the Democrats knew that he's not thinking for himself, that others are in charge or others are running the show behind the scenes. They don't care. They're getting anti-white outcomes out of him. That's all that matters. Why do they care now? They're not worried about the country. I mean, that's like being dumb enough to think that one very wealthy billionaire purchaser of Twitter was doing it for freedom of speech, right? You'd have to be that dumb. So these people don't care. Good for the country. What they care about is the potential of somebody else to get into office that is, to whatever degree as they see it, a heretic to anti-whiteism, even though it's an unintended heresy. So that's why suddenly they see how out of it he is. And if they're able to see it, they know that everyone else is seeing it. You know, they're not seeing it. They're not seeing it like in a private meeting. They're not watching him sit there and take a deuce while he's having a talk with you, sitting on the other side of the table. They're seeing it with everybody else on the television. So that's why they're freaking out, because they're thinking, no way he could get elected, even with our massive machinery of election stealing, like he mentioned last time, because he was out of it. Not even with that can we win. It's going to be too big to rig. What do? He's got to go. Now, these people, they're going to complain. They're suddenly going to say, what the hell? He's got to go. And then they'll find out, and it will happen in fits and starts, that, whoa, look, he can't give the money away. What about the electors? What about being on the ballot? Who else is polling anyhow? Is it too late to do that? Etc. So these groups coming forward and individuals will be discovering this over the coming week or weeks. Biden stepping down, like, how would that benefit Biden, his family at all? Biden and his family at all? It wouldn't. How would it improve the odds of winning? It wouldn't, especially considering the not being able to get on the ballot. Surely there'll be legal challenges to that. I would prefer to be able to speak all languages on earth, says Sam Muskie, in agreement with LG. Animals don't have skin in the game against anti-whiteism. All humans do. Amen to that. So true. Ivan says he would rather talk with animals because of how much information they're capable of gathering on people. Whoa, that's just by smell. Language barriers would cease to matter very much. Well, that's an interesting take on it, my brother. Ivan the Horrible would see. But now that's the question. Like, would the falcon, how about this? Would the animals do your bidding? Would you be, if you could talk with them, could you talk them into things? I don't know. Because if you could, think about what you could do with a harpy eagle. It's got talons that supposedly have like 4.5 inch. The talons are 4.5 inches, and supposedly that's longer than a grizzly bear's claw, and it has more pressure than or several times. I just can't even believe it's true. Then a pit bull's bite. Harpy eagle would mess some people up.
This did not happen overnight. House Democrats, this is according to Politico, were this close to publishing a letter expressing their grave concerns about the president, but they held off. They held off after House leaders told them to wait for the numbers to confirm that their fears were justified. Well, now the numbers are in, and it's worse than Democrats could have imagined. CNN's latest poll has Trump winning by 6 points nationally. 6 points. And if that doesn't scream lights out for Joe, CNN's also reporting that 72% of Americans don't believe Biden's mentally fit to serve.
If you look at the polling now.
All of a sudden, these self-interested prigs come forward and they're like, well, we got to get rid of him. He's crazy. No one knew that he was out of his mind until the other day.
Compare it to what was pre-debate and compare it to what was 4 years ago. It's just not even on the same planet, Anderson. If you ask voters now, does Biden have the mental fitness, in fact, to be president? Those numbers are incredibly low. The percentage who say he does not have the mental fitness, look at this. 72% say he does not have the mental fitness in order to be president right now.
Take a look overall at the state of the race in our brand new poll. 49% Donald Trump, 43% Joe Biden. This is a 6-point lead, Dana, and this is unchanged since our last poll in April. Joe Biden's approval rating is down to 36% in this poll. That is his lowest approval rating of his entire presidency in CNN polling. His lowest number nearly 4 months out from the election. That's not welcome news for any incumbent.
Now, the Biden campaign's trying to put the brakes on it. You are looking at a fundraising email they sent out touting that while Biden's losing to Trump, yes, they are touting that he's losing to him by less than other Democratic replacements. But there's one problem. It turns out that is not even true. The new CNN poll has Newsom, Whitmer, Buttigieg, Kamala.
Well, this kind of thing, probably the Biden poll that they shared is accurate. When you're asking people these hypotheticals, you're not getting the real answer. So
All polling better against Trump than Joe Biden. The floodgates are opening. The White House is holding an all-hands conference call at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon, as elected Democrats are now openly calling on Joe to drop out.
It has been apparent to me for some time, and the debates only reinforced it. Neither candidate is fit for president to withdraw from this race.
I hope that he will put country first. I know Trump would never do that, but that he will put country first and decide to step aside.
Those are elected Democrats, sitting lawmakers.
Okay.
My people are very much Biden, Kamala Harris. And this is an opportunity for Joe Biden professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his connection, his thoughts do not go together.
I'd love to meet those healthcare officials. They don't exist.
Is this an episode or is this a condition? And so when people ask that question, it's completely legitimate of both candidates.
There's a lot we can say about Nancy Pelosi, but she is nothing if not precise and calculated. She chooses her words wisely, and this is a massive shift in messaging. This sounds like a coded hint to the party that the winds are shifting. And it's no coincidence that Biden hasn't even met with party leaders since the debate.
She's a seasoned campaigner now, 3.5 years.
Are growing louder.
I just think that Kamala is the person. It's the cleanest way. She's a seasoned campaigner now, 3.5 years of experience. And so I think people would be very, very excited. And
how would you feel if they worked around and tried to go around?
Could you imagine? It'd be so great with Kamala running for presidency. Oh my God. The story. I mean, she's not going to be able to get on her knees and win. So I don't know what she'll come up with. But she is a half-wit. She is rough.
Kamala Harris, because of her lack of high poll numbers and popularity and broadly based. Do you think it's hers to have if it is not his?
No, this party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris. We should do everything we can to bolster her, whether it's in second place or at the top of the ticket.
Well, maybe that's why Kamala is doing little to bolster Joe. Politico reports there are no plans.
You see, they would absolutely have to go with her to replace Biden, or they'd have to pay her off and have her come out and say, I'm done. I don't want to be a part of this. That'd be the only way.
Plans for Harris to go on a Biden defense tour.
Ed is here. Ed Poe, hello and welcome. And Peter's son and Kara, hello and welcome.
That's according to aides. James Clyburn, who you just saw there, was the one who sealed the Democrat nomination for Joe Biden in 2020. But will he be the one to remove him from the ticket in 2024? Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen joins me now. Mark, you worked in the Bush White House. I worked in the Trump White House. We had a fair share of leaks in the Trump White House, but nothing like this. This torrent of leaks we've seen today. Is this indicative of something going on? The pressure's real?
And why were there leaks? Is Slots here too? Wonderful to see you on this pre-Independence Day, good sir. There were leaks because people are infected with anti-whiteism. Everyone. So it's different degrees. And where are you going to find, this is what we here in this community know, where are you going to find the people that are going to staff the revolution? Everyone's going to be infected with anti-whiteism. You got to address it there. Nothing is possible without defeating the ideology of anti-whiteism. Everything is possible when you defeat it. So people got to stop playing around at the surface.
Well, I think what's an indicative is they're panicking, but they're running around like chickens without a head. They don't have a solution to their problem because they can't remove Joe Biden. Because I mean, number one, they can't get past the Kamala Harris problem. The party of identity politics is not going to replace her. She's next in line.
Party of identity. So is the Republican Party. It's no less a party of identity. They measure their virtue by way of that same anti-white metric. How many times do you remember I tweeted? Well, I don't know. How many months ago was it? 3 months ago, 2 months ago? And it was some Republican showing this picture, this photograph of like 5 or 6 or 7 black Republicans. And they had said on the picture, like, dream team, the Democrats could never take on. They could never counter. I mean, it's all identity politics because our baseline is anti-whiteism, the party of identity politics. This is just the argument that so many Republicans, and we need this argument to die too, which is this, they see us as different. We need to just be selfish individualists and nobody has an identity, just like us white people. I mean, white people still trying to get non-white people to have no identity. Are you fucking... I mean, you're just nothing but a tard farm. Republican voters, stop being a tard farm. You are never going to get significant numbers of non-white populations to view themselves as selfishly individualistic as white people do. You're just not going to do it. Stop it. They want us to see the and then the Republicans will quote MLK. We want to see people by the content of their character. Yeah, that's the problem. We are.
The party of identity politics is not going to click the first black woman vice president to the curb and replace her with a white male. So there's no Josh Shapiro, there's no Gavin Newsom. None of these guys are going to get the nomination over Kamala Harris, and she's less popular than he is. His RCP average is 39, hers is 36. And she probably doesn't want him to leave the ticket because if he wins, she becomes president because there's no way he's going to serve 4 years. So she's going to become, if she stays on the ticket, this ticket stays intact, she becomes president. The second problem they have is, what's the alternative? I mean, put aside, if they could get past the Kamala Harris part, why is Joe Biden president right now? Because there was no other alternative in 2020. Everybody else failed. And so, and Bernie Sanders was heading towards the nomination. And so they all panicked and said, okay, let's put old, moderate, genial Joe Biden on the ticket and he'll be our Trojan horse to get into the White House. There's no better field right now. And do you think Bernie Sanders is going to sit back and say, yeah, let's nominate Josh Harris, let's put a nice moderate on the ticket? The Democratic Socialists are going to try to nominate their own person. There's going to be a Democratic civil war if they release the ticket. Bernie Sanders might run again, or he might nominate AOC. The squad is going to want to have a say in this. This is the Democratic Party. It's not the party of Bill Clinton anymore. So I think there's a lot more complicated elements to this than simply saying, let's put Joe Biden to the side and find somebody electable, because there isn't anybody.
Yeah, and what's so interesting to me is Joe Biden has yet to reach out, according to reporting, to governors. He'll do that tomorrow. Yet to reach out to Schumer. That's according to Alex Thompson. Yet to reach out to all these people. Pelosi. That's what Rachel Scott reported today. What's he doing? I mean, what's he doing? I only have a few moments here, but wouldn't you be calling the allies? I know Trump would.
I'm sure he would, but he's not planning to do anything. And this is the other thing, Kaylee, is that in our system, he has to agree to leave. He's got all the delegates pledged to him, so nobody can push him off if he doesn't go, and his family's not going to push him off. Yeah. They're all grifters, and he's their gravy train. They're not going to want to let the gravy. Putting him out there was like elder abuse. They don't care about him. He's just their tool to stay on.
It's such a lame line, and it's such a Republican type of line. It's like they're committing elder abuse. Why don't they want to take care of old people? Why do they want to harm old people? I have such a strong argument here. They just want to harm old people. They're wiping out Western civilization. But you don't want to talk about that, do you? Because that's actually defending, that's actually getting onto the actual battlefield, actually defending the thing that's under attack. You'd rather choose one of these of fake, artificial things, subjects to go after and go slay that invisible dragon, because invisible dragons don't bite back. But they have, I think they mention it next. Maybe I'll jump forward really quickly. But Hunter Biden is now on essentially Biden's presidential team, not just the election team.
Power and keep the gravy train going.
Mark Thiessen, you're the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Up next, Joe Biden's got a new advisor.
All right, let's see who that is real quick.
Debate. Longtime allies distancing themselves from the big
president's meetings at the White House, staying close to his father post-debate.
Sounds like a good idea. After all, Hunter's the smartest man Joe knows.
He is the smartest man I know. I mean, in terms of pure intellectual capacity.
I spent more time on my hands and knees picking through rugs, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. I probably smoked more Parmesan cheese than...
Is he pregnant? Smoking Parmesan cheese. I'm sure whatever he pulled out of that carpet or carpets and smoked didn't do him any harm either.
And anyone that you know.
Well, that's reassuring. Ukrainian expert, a professional artist. I do like his artwork, I'll say that. Suspended lawyer, and now it looks like he's trying to nab the nuclear football. Hey, anything's possible. But the reaction from senior White House staff has been less than inviting. Check this out. An NBC reporter posting, quote, the reaction from some senior White House staff has been, what the hell is happening?
We're all wondering. Well, but of course it's obvious. I mean, he and Jill have a serious vested interest. That's the mom. And she wants to protect the tarred boy, the tarred son. And the way to do that is with Joe in power. They have all of the pieces in place. They don't have to, as far as I can tell from the outside and the information that I've gleaned, they don't have to listen to any of these people. What I think they would like to do, though, is get as many people, what I feel would be obvious, get as many people on their side as possible, because they need to win, not just run. So all of this, like he had a conference call today with donors where he had a 6-minute teleprompter conversation that he read, apparently. What they're trying to do is not to say, hey, let us still run. What they're trying to do is say, hey, support us so we can win. Because we're running. So it would take some really powerful folks behind the scenes to say, yoink, you're out of there. Don't see that happening. Let's see. We have here, we're going to really quickly take a look at this couple from New Zealand and what happens in Western civilization. And then we're going to get on to the Deport white people and your comments and thoughts and ideas. Let's see if we can find that and pull that up. We'll get to some financial gifts right now. How about that? Let's see what's going on. Well, on this Independence Day, we will be saluting Dude Bro Moment. 50 white well-being dollars from this champion. He says, full white well-being. Find this man some flags, some fireworks, some really raucous, happy emojis. Find him something good. Maybe a lizard, maybe whatever it is. Get him some raucous emojis, some 96s. If all you can find are the digits on your device. 96s for the champion. 96s. 9 words and the 6 key concepts. Quadruple 07s for Dude Bro Moment. God bless you, brother. Great to see you again. This is his platform. Entropy, Dude Bro Moment. Thank you, brother. Let me see over here on Odyssey. We didn't miss anybody. Looks like maybe did we get 2 ice creams from Spartan over there? Thank you so much, Spartan, for 2 ice creams. Spartan says he'd rather know every single computer programming language. Well, there you go. Taking this question laterally, we'd like to know, because think of the computing abilities you would have to know all of those programming languages. Let's see. Didn't miss anybody on Rumble. I will go ahead and take a look over here to see if anybody has shown up under the thread just to say hello or piss off or whatever they're feeling. No, we didn't miss anybody over there either. Okay, very good. We will swivel around here. And thank you all for celebrating, refreshing, and reading. We have here, didn't miss anybody on Subscribe Star. And we have First Last on Cash App, financially gifting $5. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate it. On this Independence Day, and on this Independence Day, the day before Independence Day, the great, the one and only, no white guilt clips. Ladies and gentlemen, on your feet, wave your flags, show this man some patriotic love. 100 saluting dollars from the hero and champion, the legend. The legend has returned. $107. That's 100 saluting dollars. Big thank you to the great No White Guilt Clips. The house is his, folks. Find some crowns for him, some 96s, some love, maybe some hearts. Give some love to Clips. Throw some hearts at, maybe some floating emojis for Clips. Are they there? Are they on the screen? Are they allowing them still? I don't see them. Maybe they're not there for some reason on the stream. I didn't change it. But if they're not there, then they're not there. But maybe some hearts for the great Clips. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. I actually don't see the floating emoji option. I didn't take it away, but maybe YouTube took it away from me. I wouldn't be surprised. Thank you. Thank you. Let us proceed to what happens to white people in Western civilization when anti-whites are empowered to do monstrous things. And you can see, how does this kind of thing happen? This story here. This couple from New Zealand, elderly couple visiting America, once a beautiful Western civilization where the white man had made the streets and the forests so safe that you could go out at any time and suffer no ill. But now you show up and you're white and you are targeted by anti-white monsters. How do we get here? Anti-whiteism attacks our norms. By attacking our norms and our mores, that includes our thoughts, our beliefs when it comes to policing and punishment of criminals. By browbeating us, devaluing our lives as the persecutors, enslavers, rapacious race that the most rapacious race the world has ever known. By doing that, you engender this bestial hunger from criminals who then view every single white person as the avatar for all of the theft and the rapine and the murder from the pages of their fiction that they believe is a reality. and then they prey upon us. These are real lives extinguished, brutalized, altered, disfigured by anti-whiteism and anti-whites. You're never going to fix it, as it has not been fixed or addressed, by talking about crime or blue waves in government or Democrat policies, or you're never going to fix it with any of that. You're never going to fix it by saying we need more meritocratic-based immigration. We need more non-white people coming into America, getting into our 2-year universities, and then getting a green card to be an American citizen, to participate in America. Not going to fix it that way. You're not going to fix it by talking about family values, because what is family values to a multiracial polyglot? It's nothing. Family values are instinctual, and they are the creation of a people. Each people has their family values. There are similarities and differences. The abstraction that conservative content creators, cucks, give to good conservative people and patriots and nationalists alike is, and has always been and always will be, a failure, a strategy that loses. It suffers the fate of the commons. When nobody owns a thing, they don't defend it. There's no vigorous defense. They don't fight with righteous fury for it. When it is ours, when it belongs to us, we fight for it. So there is no cosmic family values. No one stands up to defend that. How long have you seen these kinds? Your whole lives, generations. The only way to stop this is to address the anti-whiteism, to address the white erasure of our norms and mores, which includes white Westman concepts of policing, of punishment, of law and order, of civility, not an abstraction of all of humanity's concepts of law and order and family values and etc. So let's get into this story. As the sun sets abruptly in Northern Virginia, the once great state of Virginia, the sun abruptly sets. And we will see here, wife 68 is killed. Look at this anti-white beast. Look at this anti-white monster. Absolute despicable. Wife 68 is killed in front of her horrified husband after armed robbers attacked them at upmarket Newport Beach Mall before she is dragged into a parking lot and run over by the murderers, by the anti-white terrorists. Armed attackers killed a woman in front of her horrified husband as they attempted to rob the couple outside an upmarket Newport Beach Mall, police have said. So it's just another robbery, not anti-white. See, we begin with the problem of anti-whiteism. It's just another robbery. No, that's not how we should view it. That is not how we should view it. If this were being done to black people and blacks were in charge, would it just be a robbery? If it were being done by whites? If this were being done to Jews and Jews were in charge, and this is being done to Jews by whites, would it just be a robbery? No. We need to wise up. The 68-year-old woman named Patricia McKay was from New Zealand, and her husband had been outside of Barnes & Noble at the Fashion Island Mall. So this is not even the white selfish individualism says, well, you just get away from those areas that all the other white people can't get away from. Who cares about them? Because we're selfish individualists. We're just going to go flee over this way, and that somehow works out well. Just go ahead and continue appealing to the selfish individualism of white people. We're just going to leave, and we'll leave them there. Well, anti-whiteism is finding you at your upmarket places, isn't it? There'll be nowhere to hide. But what will happen? Well, the white people who can build the big walls and have the big dogs, maybe we've seen this happen in all of our major cities, Rhodesia, South Africa, they'll do that. And then they'll say to the rest of the white population, to you racists. That's what selfish individualism does. Ethno-nationalism, party affiliation, alma mater affiliation. That's what it does for you. Don't let me get in the way, though, of all the stupidity and the West going to hell just because we have the answers. So how bestial is this? Terrorism. They drag this old lady out into the street so they can run her over. They were approached by two men, you mean two anti-white terrorists, at around 3:30 p.m., according to reports. The woman was dragged into the parking lot as the two men got into a Toyota being driven by a third man, a third terrorist, anti-white terrorist. The suspects then ran over Mackey as they drove away from the scene, firing shots as they led the police on a high-speed chase. So why didn't they just kill this garbage? I mean, in an all-white country, we all know this. If three white guys robbed an old couple, beat them mercilessly, and then dragged the old woman out in the street and ran her over, our white police officers would just kill those three white guys right there on the side of the road. We all know. They would say, you were the ones who just did this. The police would just be blazing away. But all those standards have been white erased. And the reason, I mean, not the least of which is the fact that instinctually, in a society run by us, that kind of thing is going to be extremely rare instinctually. But beyond instinct, you have the pressure exerted from the fact that you'll be made into Swiss cheese. It's a guarantee. You better not rob the old people and then run over the old woman. I mean, the horror, you live your whole life. You think about this couple, live their whole lives, and here they are. It's supposed to be the golden years. You know, they've worked, they've paid their taxes, they've all, whatever it is. It's supposed to be their golden years to relax. This is probably, you know, the vacation of a lifetime. And then they have to end, the old woman has to end her life like this. How do you feel about her children who are now wondering about mom's final thoughts? The horror that mom was experiencing. Those children are traumatized. Everybody related and friends of these people are traumatized by this. No big groups of white, informed, and empowered monetarily groups of white people are going to show up and advocate for these people, because the white race doesn't do that. What it does do is it complains well about everybody else doing what's right. No one was struck by the gunfire, police confirmed. How do you end up taking people? I mean, beyond you kill in this monstrous, bestial way, this old woman. You murder her this way. You should be, in my opinion, just shot dead. They should just brutally take you out. But how then are you not brutally taken out when you are also shooting at police? Bullets are flying everywhere. It could go through a 4-year-old little boy's head. This is white erasure. Everything's slipping away. White erasure, which is the term to use. Cops began following the man in a cross-country pursuit shortly after the violent attack. They chased them into Los Angeles after a pair of suspects jumped out near Los Alamitos. The suspect's car reached 110 miles an hour. A weapon that can kill far more and maim far more people than a firearm. 110 miles an hour. Well, now they have them in custody, and they will get what is the equivalent of slaps on the wrist. Where they're going to go to jail for 10 years, and we'll pay for them to have television, computers, sex, food, electricity, climate control. Oh, they can't go to the nearest mall and rob and murder and rape. Well, they're really being denied. Despicable. Meanwhile, our potentially, I don't know what race this couple is. I'm guessing they're white, but maybe they're not. Obviously wrong to do to anyone. But if these are our people, as is so often the case, we can visualize and imagine, and should, what it's like for them. How long was this man and this woman married? Could you imagine? Maybe they've been married 20, 30, 50 years. And you're married to this woman, and you're in love. And after all of these years, maybe you rear a family. And after all of these years, this is how she takes her last breaths, and this is what you see. He valiantly tried to fight with these anti-white animals that did this to them. What else can we say about this? We can say that criminals know that tourists, especially they got their strange accents, are not armed because they can't have a firearm. And they're targeted because of it. So these people were probably overheard by these anti-white terrorists, and they heard that accent that they knew was from outside the country, and therefore they knew that they couldn't have a firearm on them. And that is why they decided to choose them as victims. On top of the fact that they're looking at the white devil, the avatars of the white devil that's responsible for all the murder and rape and mayhem and persecution and exploitation that has ever happened in the world. You know, they didn't magnanimously choose these white people. You know, they didn't say to themselves, I'm going to overlook it. I'm going to overlook all the evil the white race has done. You know, they didn't. You so often in these crimes against white people, this terrorism, you can feel viscerally that wild rage that comes through the victimizers, that wild rage that's born out of that lifetime of indoctrination in the anti-white narrative. They don't just want to rape you. They don't just want to murder you. They don't just want to maim you. They want to do it with as much demonic pleasure as they can muster. Because in their demented anti-white heads, it's revenge and therefore do. It's the same sort of mentality that you see rightly get directed at pedophiles, or at least used to be the case. As things change in the West, as our norms are white erased, you'll see in a number of years this tacit approval of killing, maiming, beating a pedophile will slowly go away, because that was a white norm. And when you look around the world, at least where I've looked, you don't see that much of a norm there. You don't see the protection of children, especially from sexuality and sexual predators, as pronounced as I've personally, my opinion, seen it in the West. So how could you have warrant or nod, give a conniving nod toward the murder, beating, maiming of pedophiles? This is where we are. Deport Americans, deport white Americans. That's what we got up next. A genuine sentiment in the anti-white narrative. Let me see what you all are saying. Thank you all for celebrating. Esoteric Truth saying received acknowledgement from European Revolution about notifying him about my stream tonight. Well, that's awesome. It's a good guy. Red Eagle Politics said anti-whiteism on stream when I super chatted anti-whites. A slip for the pristine. That is awesome, Slots. That's from Slots. Red Eagle Politics. We'll have to try to remember that for Sunday to celebrate. That's great news. Demon rats are identity political. From our Black Caucus, we see polling saying we're gaining Hispanics, close quote from Slots. The demon rats. So true, my friend. From our Republican Black Caucus, from our Republican log cabin people. Yeah, the Republicans, they're not about identity politics at all. Oh, Cool Papa J Magic says he sees the floating emojis. All right. Let them rip. On several occasions, I've tried to get James Lindsay to use anti-whiteism instead of woke, but he ignores my suggestions, so I stopped following him. Well, good on you. Yeah, give it a go. Give it a try. Woke is just, you're speaking their locution, you're speaking their lexicon, you're speaking their language. When you use their terminology, you legitimize their ideology. The control, psychological warfare control, is as straightforward for human beings, for the human animal, is as straightforward as it is for dogs or cattle or sheep. It doesn't need to be mysterious. They don't need to do like a mind meld. That's not what works. They don't go like and get you to obey. There's not some kind of weird, the tower outside doesn't need to talk to your inoculation, your immunization to get you to do. That's not it. That's not it. It's sci-fi, and it gets attention, and content creators can make themselves popular and make themselves money, but that's not it. That's not how it works. Broadly, it's the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fiction. You create with fiction what you want reality to be, and you name things, I should say, with the associations that you want associated with those things. It's broadly, that's what it is. That's how it works. And it's amazing. I can break it down into painful detail. And I have for people. And they're still like, nope. And it's the reason why is it's really an IQ thing. They can't hold the disparate connections in their head. Do you think a strong centrist movement might be a solution to anti-whiteism? No. The solution is defeating the anti-white, immoral, moral imperative with the white positive moral imperative in the go free stratagem. Because we need everyone fighting anti-whiteism, the evil of this age. It's the anti-whiteism is the ideology that effectuates all of the outcomes that destroy the West, that ruin our lives, that white erase every single time. They're based in retributive justice against white people. All of it is. That's the backbone of all of it. If you can defeat that, then you have the path to victory. There isn't a possibility, given the materials we have to work with, i.e. the people, of building a movement that can contend with anti-whiteism, because it's not an isolated movement. It's not like another political party. And this is where a lot of people start to lose things, because it's above most people's pay grade intellectually. They can grapple with mentally that there's a team, like a team sports. There's a team here and there's a team there, and we need to build a bigger, stronger, faster team with more money and etc. But that's nowhere even remotely detailed enough of an understanding of where we are in the world to be able to contend and recapture our destiny as a consequence. So we need, maybe when you're thinking in terms of like a movement, we need a moral imperative that, by way of a process of curative contagion, makes its way into numerous multifarious aspects of society, people of different economic levels, etc., different interests, different desires for recreation, even for, broadly political ideas. Not saying that the particular political ideas are anti-white, but just broadly, in a most generic sense, political ideas, religious ideas as well. It needs to make its way everywhere, suffusing these things so that people where they are can contend with anti-whiteism, whether they have wealth, none, power, none, some, head of a union, surgeon at a hospital, wherever they are. And by way of that, you then have possibilities that open up everywhere. And there are some other benefits to that as well. I should say requirements, because a movement can be targeted. A movement can be stopped, especially with these new powers that the president might enjoy. they could be assassinated. They could be jailed. They can be impoverished. They can all of the tools that you see used now by anti-whites. But a phenomenon can't be targeted and jailed and assassinated. If we had smart people around, do you realize if we even had smart people in the white race, how deeply genius they would realize this is? I mean, there are so few courageous and bright white people. It's sickening. But also, I got to admit, it's hard to find the courageous and smart white people out there because, I mean, you look on Twitter and that's what it is. It's not X. It's the same thing as before. And all day long, all of us are getting recommended these female and some male to a lesser degree dilettantes, socio-political. You're interested in anything going on with politics? Well, Musk is going to make sure you know about the girl who can clap her ass when she bounces up and down. And literally. And then she'll tell you that she's pro-MAGA, doesn't like immigration. And her sub count will climb and climb. 700,000 followers, 1.2 million. Tweets will be no fewer than 300 some thousand views. Sometimes up around 2 million views. These are the people being pushed. If I were Chinese, and we should really think about this, and because reality is what we have to grapple with if we're going to be adult and make changes in the world. If I were Chinese in China and I developed a strategy with the help of other hero Chinese people, we all came together and we were on social media, we were on the Chinese equivalent of TikTok in China, the Chinese government would push us onto the population. Their algorithm would make sure that all of the Chinese people saw us again and again. Their algorithm would make sure that whatever this particular Chinaman's interests might be, that the algorithm would find something that we had talked about that would speak to his interest and show him that video, show him that tweet, so that he would become a follower and start regularly getting our information, because it would improve his health, his well-being, etc. That's what the Chinese would do with us. We do this work here, and we are shadow banned. Absolutely, abjectly, by Elon Musk, the free speech guy. The free speech guy who just caved to a bunch of tarded idiots saying, bring our king back on the platform. Just said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Whatever you want. Gives them that. He shadow bans us. But he'll make sure with his algorithm that you're getting the girl in the American flag bikini clapping her ass up and down as she gyrates so she can tell you she's MAGA and doesn't like immigration. Make sure you'll get that. That's what we're up against. So things could be expedited, to say the least. The work we're doing, we could be pushed. I'm not getting pushed anywhere. I'm getting hidden. So that's why we all have to work. We all got to come together. We all got to work all right, because this chicanery is by Elon Musk and by anti-whites at large is deep. It's bottomless. They will do anything to stop anything healthy from reaching our brothers and sisters. They will do anything. These are not foibles. This is not like a foible of Elon Musk. It's not a foible of Rumble that I'm shadow banned on that platform, that they tell no one that I'm streaming ever. It's not a foible. Again, China would be pushing me if I were Chinese in China. But not in America. No, in America, you're going to get the ass clapper. And as a consequence, we get more anti-whiteism. And we get anti-whiteism like this. We can talk about illegal immigration. Now, this anti-white pig, this squealing, frolicking in the filth pig, is apparently an immigrant herself. She did the paperwork the right way. And an adopter of anti-whiteism, coming to a white country, what's left of it, coming to a white country and advocating the deportation of white Americans. Now, this actually is not, this idea, this stream of thought in anti-whiteism is not new. It's been around for a very long time. And the further you go back in time, you click week by week by week, and it was increasingly, or it is increasingly more comical the further you look back in time. People thought, oh, it's a silly, oh, it's ridiculous, oh, it's fun. The further you go back, it's funny. The funnier it gets. And yet, I'm right again. Because all those years I was arguing with people about how it's not going to be funny in the future. It's not going to be dismissible in the future. You can now see where we are in America. You can now see, and across the West, that anti-whites hold so many nodes of power, and they are so vociferously and viscerally, violently, jealously anti-white, that this sort of thinking is becoming more and more mainstream.
Illegal immigrants, because our country is literally full of them. And I'm talking specifically about the whiteys, the Caucasians, the white people in America.
The whites, the Caucasians, the white people in America. Does anybody know where she came from? Is she Indian?
They literally are here illegally. Their ancestors are criminals that came here illegally.
The white people are here illegally in a country that only exists in us. And therefore, you see it in the world where we live for now. There is no here that we can come to illegally. We don't have to talk about our ancestors, like the old Republican tropes or the old conservative tropes that, well, by golly, our ancestors came here because they were pioneers if they came here long ago, or if they came here, some of our ancestors came here since the founding of America. Well, they came here to contribute, and these people are coming here to get on the dole. No. You cannot be an immigrant to a Western country if you're white, because it only exists in us. It wasn't built and can now be taken over by someone else. No, it exists every moment of every day because we are projecting it into the world. Where we cease to project it, it ceases being Western. It ceases being white. And then it's only a matter of time, and historically, less than a billionth of a second before it's irrevocably and eradicated from existence. So this whole argument about us coming and being illegal immigrants not only is nonsensical, because there was no legal fiction called the United States. There was no legal structure until white people made it. But it goes deeper than that, because she is the one who can never truly be an American or a Canadian or an Englishman or a Brit or an Italian or a German. She can be one by way of paper And that can be legitimate. It can be honorable. There have been many honorable non-white people, and normal white people respect them. Great contributors, and say, this country is my home and I'm going to defend it and I'm going to obey the law and I'm going to imitate the norms and white people respect that. We always have. That's how you get all these weird stories from history. They're like, well, this person was actually black that was in the aristocracy. And how did that happen? Do you think they didn't know? Do you really think they didn't know? I mean, give me a break. So whites are the only people who can be Westerners, legitimately, biologically Westerners. Non-white people can be citizens of Western countries. But maybe you put it this way, if the white race doesn't end up embracing the reality that we are the West, we are America, we are Canada, we are Australia, we are Sweden. If we don't embrace that reality, if we don't recognize it and embrace it, then deportation from the countries of our making will happen. Do you want to know why it hasn't happened it has happened, hasn't? Didn't they deport white people from Rhodesia? Do you know why it hasn't happened on a larger scale? Do you know why deportations haven't been associated with mass murder and concentration camps? Because anti-white oligarchs prevent it from happening in those places where it could take place. Because if they didn't, white people in the rest of the West would see what was being done to us in those countries, and it would be that much harder to conquer us the rest of the way with anti-whiteism. It would be that much harder to take the final steps of victimizing us. So they hold their hands back. They go to places like South Africa and Rhodesia, and they say, no, leave the white farmers alone there. Leave that little tiny settlement alone for now over here. Do not allow the army to go and just rape all the women to death and the children to death and kill all the men immediately. Not yet. Don't do that yet. Because in this country and in that country and in the other country, it will become a big problem for us. That's why. Let's hear more of what this anti-white, savage, terrorist beast who has been allowed to become a citizen of the United States has in store for the white people who have given her and allowed her to have citizenship. Let's hear more from her.
And I don't know, maybe in the future we can do like a mass deportation, like all these white Americans they can go be refugees in Europe or something. Or like we can.
And of course, what would the anti-whites say about white people in Europe? You're not allowed there either. Stolen lands, stolen concepts, stolen science, persecution enriched off the backs of the non-white world. This is the anti-white narrative. You're not going to get out of it by staying in that story and having a debate about their history.
Like have like a spot in America where like the refugees can go, and obviously we'll provide them with care and stuff, but it's important that they do it.
How fucking nice of this pig. Yeah. Going to provide us care. I bet they would.
The right way. Just because their ancestors didn't doesn't mean they should get the benefits of that. And I think that they should they should be deported until they can like work their way back.
So these are is she Indian? Are these the Indians that the Republicans want to bring over? I mean, if you know anything about the caste system in India, and a lot of wonderful people, a lot of wonderful Indians in the world, but if you know anything about their caste system and then how they view poor white people in the Americas, it's not good. I'm sure it's not all of them, but I've seen with my own two eyes, and maybe she's Indian, maybe she's not. But she is articulate. She doesn't have a face tattoo, does she? She doesn't have like bizarre multicolored hair. So all of these things should signal to you that this is not some sort of fringed, like no nose piercings, no tongue piercing, no eyebrow piercing, no fake canines, Dracula canines coming out of her mouth. This is a normal person. This is a normal anti-white. So this idea of deport white Americans from America has, as I said so many years ago, increased in its legitimacy over the years. Not long, folks. We better start going free. We better
and get a citizenship the right way, like the way I did it. I did all the paperwork. They should also have to, because again, we don't need more criminals in this country. It's already full of them. Illegal.
All right, so white people could be deported to Europe, according to this anti-white, or they could be rounded up and put in camps but they'll be cared for there until they do their paperwork to become a citizen, because the country already has too many criminals in it. And the white peoples are ipso facto, prima facie. These motherfuckers are getting elected. These are the people who are voting with increasing numbers. I mean, the Republican Party now having more sway over Donald Trump because of all of his legal troubles and the attacks and etc. It's kind of, you look at Donald Trump and you see a situation similar to me and us. Not only does Donald Trump have to deal with the radical anti-whites in the Democrat Party, but he's got to deal with the anti-whites in his own circles trying to subvert him. We have to deal with the anti-white oligarchs and their efforts to silence us and prevent our message from reaching people. But we also have to deal with the people who achieve anti-white objectives, who are subverting us by way of, or as a result of, their urge to turn everything into Jew hate, or the alternative, Jew worship. Always Judeo-centrism with both of those groups. They either want you to hate all Jews or worship all Jews. So Donald Trump is now in a position to have to be more subservient to the Republican status quo, because he's been wildly weakened by the attacks from the Democrats, anti-whites, extreme. And what is their norm? Bring in India. They could bring in enough Indians from just Indian citizens to decide who all of the politicians are going to be. Wonder what they would look like. I wonder what race they would be. You think they would be putting more white people in charge? I think not. And so we would then end up, and this is the future for white people across the West, if we do not adopt the white positive morality that defeats the anti-white moral imperative, the result will be that white people will be relying on the non-white people who have a tiny bit of compunction, standing up for us in government so that we won't be put in camps or deported. That's where we're headed. Look at us in our big cities. Look at us in Rhodesia and South Africa. How much more of a crystal ball do you need? Melody Doan is here. I don't know if I said hello earlier, but AOC is here. Davey is here. We need to have our norms restored. And those families who suffer such loss know they are victimized because of their race, says Samuski. And they know they will be victimized further if they say so. So they refuse. So sad. Yeah, precisely. And if they forget, of course, then you have that, what is it, community relations department? What are they called? Community relations service? Something like that. Something like that. In the Department of Justice in America. And we found out the UK has the exact same type of department in their government where they show up at the home of white victims of anti-white terrorism, and they tell them, we're from the government. Don't say this had anything to do with race. What would be the purpose of that? Because being victimized as an individual because of the group to which you belong has a subtle way of getting you to think about individual well-being by way of group well-being. Can you believe that I'm only talking to whatever number ends up hearing us here? Can you believe it? Very well said, Truth and Samuski. The only ones who are going to save us is us, precisely. Well said. Community Relations Service. Just Michelle is here. Hello. Just Michelle said they brought in Biden. You mean to defeat Trump? The previous election? And hello to you. We also have Buoyant Bear has joined us. Hello and welcome. Your buoyancy is welcome. Mofil says we're losing because that's the will of our people. Yeah, our will is misplaced. That's why we use these concepts to redirect our brothers and sisters to thinking in a way that is beneficial for the whole. That's why we use the dialectics, so that our brothers and sisters think in a way that is beneficial for the whole of our people, and therefore the members of our people, which are us. Which are us. It's amazing. It's so amazing that white people have figured this out. We have found a way out of it, but the white people are not showing up. We go around bashing our head against the wall. We got to do it. We got to do it until out of charity, as I've been for decades. Not only charities, paying my own money, as well as my time, my intellect, everything that the white race has given me, I pay back because I'm a man of the West. It's the only way to really be a man, is to serve the well-being of your people. So if you're a black guy, if you're going to be a man, you got to serve the well-being of your people. If you're a Jewish guy, to be a man, you got to serve the well-being of your people. It's genetic. That's what we're for. It is as much the purpose of a man's existence as a woman being the one who can actually carry and give birth. Why am I the voice in 2024 revealing this? You have like Tony Robinson types, people with hundreds of millions of dollars off of the backs of our people, and they're not sharing anything of genuine value. They're just taking stuff, fables of ours, sayings of ours, and repackaging them and selling them anew for their enrichment. Shit tons of our people showing up. Here we are. I've been here for decades, and I've been online for 7 years. People come and go. Talk about a sick race. Talk about an absolutely sick people. But we'll be doing this out of charity, at least until some white people, and you would not believe how many white millionaires there are just in America. White billionaires too. It would be nothing for certainly centa white millionaires and billionaires, but even deca white millionaires to just finance everything we want to do. White ADL come into existence immediately. Skyscraper of steel and concrete and beautiful glass. The biggest and most beautiful giant fountain. Maybe in front of it, maybe it's Prometheus with fire coming through water. I mean, it would be nothing for their money, for the money that white people have out there. Nothing. And then think of how we could strategically, with all the success that we've had, with that kind of infusion of wealth, think of how quickly we could influence the West. It would be amazing. We could have strategies for all of the churches, strategies for all of the lodges, strategies for the universities, strategies for the elected, strategies for people for running for office, strategies for military personnel, strategies for law enforcement. Everything that the actual Jewish ADL and AIPAC, all that they do, we could do it with the tools that work and the brains that created the tools. Imagine it. But until then, we're going to chug away because it's the only way. If you're a white guy, the only way to be a man. You can't be a man otherwise. Genetically, you can never fully fulfill that role. And there is a fundamental change you feel in yourself. It feels like maybe, I don't know, scientifically, maybe you want to call it like the waking of epigenetics. I don't know. Waking of a spirituality, when you accept that your role is the well-being of our people and you see the world for what it is, and you give up playing, you give up playing, you give up LARPing, you give up excuses, you give up some other champion to do it for you. You can't have a champion do it for you. Somebody else can't be the champion. You can have somebody out there that is training you, that you're working with, but you can't, nobody's going to be your champion. You can't be a man by having somebody else do it for you. So, waiting on the men. And you see these online. It's such a disgrace. You see these white guy content creators, and they'll have moderately small, medium-ish followings. It's kind of like the old bands. You notice, like the bands that ended up getting promoted, like if they're going to be white, there's always going to be like a non-white guy in the band, or couple non-white guys in the band, or non-white guys behind the band, but are very visible, part of the overall machinery of the band. It can never just be white guys. But you see these white guys who they're trying to fill this void, trying to help all of these white boys in the world. That's what they are. Trying to help them feel more like a man. And then what do they have on every one of their panels? Like all of their co-hosts, etc. Always a black guy, always like a Hispanic guy. Those are the ones that get promoted by like the Elon Musks. Some white guys and it always, you don't need to have a beard to be a man. What is going on? Like, give me a break. Are you Arab? What the f are you doing? Have these guys shave their faces and see how weak their jaw is. I got a beard. To hide your glass jaw? Okay. But you'll see that this white guy will start the video and you'll have like a flannel shirt on. And he'll be like, I'm going to teach you what it's like to be a man. I'm here with Jerome. What? You got to honor your woman. Honor your country. Come on. Enough with the platitudes. Nothing but the platitudinarians. And they're really no better than any of these parvenus, any of these dilettantes that are showing up. They just look out at the world and they're like, what are they saying? Oh, they're against vaccines? Well, then let me show it. Hey, look at this pie I'm making. Let me just push my boobs together. Let me just push these jugs up. But yeah, you look at the pie. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have even chosen pie. That made it worse. Ignore my giant cleavage. You just look at the cake I made. Sure. By the way, I'm against vaccines, she says. Come on. I don't know why I gave her like a raspy smoking voice. It just came out of nowhere. But they're worse than they're just as bad if they're not worse than that. Let me see what y'all are saying. We're going to get ready to roll out of here. We've been streaming already 2.5 hours. Didn't miss anybody on Entropy. Remember, tag me. Tag me, tag me. Let me see over there on Rumble. Let's see. Is that Nation? I think it's Nation. And then some more words over there on Rumble. Says, know why guilt brought me to a better perspective on life and how to figure out, is that psychological warfare. Well, thank you. I appreciate that testimonial. Thank you very much. And then also shared that's a great testimonial. 07 to you, my friend. And then we have a link for a heavy metal song. Maybe I'll check that out later. And did we miss anybody over here? No. So didn't miss anybody over there. Over here on Twitter, so we have a lot of messages. Do we have No White Gullibility asking if I'm on TikTok? I've been on TikTok, I think it's 3 times. And they've kicked me off all 3 times. And I was not sharing anything different than Instagram. It was the exact same stuff. So Instagram's Meta, and I'm allowed to stay there. But TikTok, don't know why. Maybe I was being targeted. You know, you speak out against the multiracial Jew hating, even though you're including all the anti-whites of all races, including Jews, in the group that are the bad guys. And they will organize these mass attacks on accounts. Maybe it was that. I don't know. But it wasn't 3 times directly in a row, though. So they were separated by some time. So let's see. Do we have anybody else tagging me over there? Oh, we did. Yes. Anti-whiteism ends with you asking about a conservative Texas chick over here as well. I mean, there are so many people. It's the ADL. Wasn't the ADL? Not the SPLC. That did the science on the connections between content creators. When there was this tangible community of content creators on YouTube. And y'all remember they released that report, probably can still be found now. And it showed the different content creators. And I think it made maybe the circle for each content creator larger or smaller based on audience size, and then their connections. to each of the others. And by doing that, they were able to ascertain where all those linkages were. And then they set about with their partners in, it's my opinion, I can't say for sure. I mean, I wasn't in on their little meetings. This is just my opinion. Look into it for yourself. Maybe ask them. And they set about, in fact, I think they bragged about it afterward, didn't they? Didn't they write an article bragging about that they had done it? Breaking all these connections and that had formed. So this incipient community that was like a wedge of philosophical, socio-political ideas, religio ideas that was really forming, they destroyed it. They broke it into thousands of pieces. And a lot of content creators hung on for a while and making a little bit of content here and there. But Sarah Dye, where did she and her co-hosts go? So there are a lot of shows that when they're out of sight, they're out of mind. A lot of content creators out of sight, out of mind. And then you're suddenly like, whatever happened to them? Also, there's the reality that if you're creating content and you're not being viewed, like people aren't showing up to share in your content. I don't know how many people are content creators that are not big, real big content, like Crowder, for example, who still view the creation of content. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm projecting, but who view the creation of content as just like them an audience. I think after a while, it definitely, for me, I guess maybe I'll just speak for me. And really from the beginning, because it was like me and Clash Sensei and like 10 other people. So for me, it was always community. When I stream, I'm like, where are my people? Not like, where's the audience, right? But I think that when you are creating content and you're going to the trouble of doing the research, if there's research required, you go into the trouble of setting the time aside. You go into the trouble of preparing all of the software depending upon how you do it, setting up your background, all that post-show. Then you have the show or the stream, whatever you want to call it, and then the post-show, because there's always stuff to do after the fact. You got to file, you've got to record, you've got to change file types and upload to different platforms, and there are a lot of different things to do. Few people are interested in continuing to do that when not very many people care. And it doesn't matter. And by care, I mean are showing up and participating in that community. And it doesn't matter whether few people are showing up because they're just not interested or because they're not being notified. There's an active effort to, undermine the content creator. Few people can stomach just go. So you think about the number of people that have disappeared. It's actually a lot. It's actually a whole lot. How many people honestly ask yourself, how many people with a regular viewer count that we have are still streaming? Regularly or at all. Used to be slews of content creators, remember? What about Slav? I mean, we could go on and on. We could tell each other names and be like, oh my God, yes, I remember that person. Where are they now? Gone. So that's another way that anti-whites running these different platforms can undermine the streaming itself, undermine the shows themselves. Robot says that people are lazy. They are lazy. Robot's saying that he's talking with his mother-in-law, and it was the topic was it Mexicans? I guess maybe Hispanics, maybe she specifically knows it's Mexicans. We're building a fence. So a fence is being installed, and it's maybe like legitimately Mexican workers or Hispanic workers broadly. Asked the owner why it was only them, and apparently he said because they're the only ones who will work in 90-degree heat. Bullshit. It's them because they're cheaper for that owner. That's why. They won't require all of the protections. They won't require as long of breaks. I mean, was it not 90 degrees in the United States before 1965? Was it not 90 degrees? Did fences not get built? I mean, 90+%, 1965. I mean, you move forward, though, you still have the vast majority of the country is white. When was the Hoover Dam built? When was the Empire State Building built? When were there? I mean, we could just go on and on. But yeah, they're the ones that will work. That's the reason. Yeah, that's the reason. It's not because the business owner has structured his or her business so that social welfare for these people by way of the taxpayer is funding part of his employment. Does that make sense? He doesn't have to worry about his employees in totality of their welfare by way of what he pays them. So he has structured his business to only pay for people who will be able to easily get on and stay on welfare systems. Daughter of Eve asks, am I sure that I'm shadow banned on X because she found me there? Well, that's the way that shadow banning works, is that it's going to allow some percentage, depending on the shadow banning, to get through. So like if now you found me there, was I suggested to you? So it's going to allow some percentage to get through so that you're left with the impression that you just suck. You just, like, nobody wants like actual answers. Nobody wants to have the predictions of the future that are accurate 99 to 100% of the time. That all people want are the lowest IQ ass clapping takes. No one wants anything to actually get better. So you're left with this, so that the psychological effect of it is to dishearten you and to make you just give up. You engender something different in a person if they are aware that you're doing this to them. You engender that resiliency. You engender this attitude of I'll show you. So it's this understanding of human psychology. But yeah, tag me again. Let me know if I was suggested to you or if you looked me up and found me that way. Robot saying he agrees with what I was saying. Thank you, brother. Just looking for any other tags on Twitter. Thank you all for watching me over there and sharing me. Wow, folks. Everybody on your feet. Every Helios Abbott is here. Everybody on your feet. Get out your raucous emojis. I'll let you get ready with your raucous emojis. Flags, fireworks. This is make it fireworks or trophies or medals. What else would they give out? For the great, the one and only Slots. The hero has shown up over here and he says, thank you, brother. Financially gifting on this pre-Independence Day 200 Save the White Family dollars. God bless you so much. A real hero and champion. God bless you. The great in-house philosopher, the great Slots. We love you, man. $200. Contributing in so many different ways. Quadruple 07s. Gems for his footfalls. Plaudits and applause, please. Plaudits and applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the great Slots. Plaudits and applause. I really appreciate it, brother. And thank you all for celebrating. Thank you for your plaudits and applause. Based White is in the house. Based White. Based White making clips. Make sure you repost those. Follow Based White on the numerous platforms. And repost everything he makes. For White Wellbeing is also with us. Great to see you, champion. He says, yes, brother. We can find the way to get in front of Westman and Wealth and present them with a true option to serve their duty. Amen to that. Exactly. The videos that this guy makes, powerful. Mwah. Very emotionally powerful. I love it. Great to see you here. Impatience is with us. Base White says, we are with you till the end, no matter how many views you have. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. We're the apostles. I don't know how big the audience was for the apostles, but I imagine not as big as some of these mega church preachers and priests. Probably not that big. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Gramby is with us. Truth saying the employer is an example of the selfish individualism. Precisely. Beautifully said. And we got some Bulldog Boris to look at some beautiful. We got the best. We genuinely have the smartest, best people. And that's how we end up making the big changes in the world. That's a perfect example. He's just worried about himself. It's these employers who are the ones who really push this. White people won't do the work. They won't do the work for nothing. You're right. And so we need to make it illegal, totally illegal. Business shut down, license gone. You go to jail if you're going to push white erasure, because white erasure personally enriches you. I ran across you randomly, says Samuski, and I was the one who noticed your magic window playing backward. And I was confused. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, awesome. How foolish of the anti-whites to allow anybody to get through, because these champions have ended up coming through. The good Lord making sure that even when the anti-whites are trying to stymie and block and stalwart and build walls, well, there have no walls on our borders, build walls, the good Lord still makes sure the right people get through. And that's all it will take, is the right people. Leonard. Jason, what career or business would you pursue if you were 18 again? And what are some lucrative businesses that come to your mind? Also, you said you worked on the Hill and left. Was it because of corruption or no opportunity? And why did you keep changing careers? Factories, military, politics. The changing careers was because of the anti-whiteism. I would get into environments. I would be number one. I would be setting records at the jobs, sales records, didn't matter what it was. Military was best athletic in the athletics and in the educational scores. Didn't matter. It didn't matter what it was or where you were. If you are a white guy who excels, especially a light-featured white guy who excels, then you are wildly discriminated against. And perhaps a wiser me would have said or concluded, okay, I'm going to be discriminated against everywhere. I might as well just accept my second-class status and just stick with this career and just bumble along through my life's history and then get into a coffin somewhere. Maybe a wiser me would have said that. But, you know, I was full of piss and vinegar, and I was like, you know, this, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to make it somehow. But in an anti-white world, everywhere you turn when you are a white guy, there are roadblocks. And anybody who would tell you that there aren't, especially females, immediately distance yourself. Because there are a lot of white females out there that, not all, of course, and they're not here in our community, but there are a lot of white females out there that, if you're a white guy, we're looking for companionship, and they don't give a shit about you. You are fungible. You are absolutely, you can get blown to pieces. It doesn't matter. You could live or die. They really don't care. Down deep. They really don't. Women are not. One of the biggest scams pulled on our race is that women are somehow more compassionate. Not toward men. They couldn't care less what happens to us. They couldn't be more indifferent, even when they want to be. So many of them to be different. They don't care. And they will say, nothing's holding you back. And it does not matter. Your experiences don't matter. You can tell these women about your experiences with the persecution, the discrimination against us, against white males. They don't care. They're not going to believe you. Or they'll say, well, if you're a man, you'll find a way. And it's really easy to say that when you're in a world where, as a female, you're given everything. You're a female, you get a job. You're a female, you get... Now, that is slowly changing for white women. We're seeing that. And now they're starting to squawk. But for decades and decades and generations, it was, you're just a bitch. Like, I, Tiffany, can just roll out of bed, show up at some lawyer's office, get me a six-figure salary in the second year, and I'm climbing the ladder. There's no problem. I can get me a job at some media outlet and just I'm skyrocketing up the ladder. So what's wrong with you? So you could share your experiences. You could show all of these examples over time. You can go like directly to like Target, where it says, we have this goal of increasing diversity by 10% this quarter. That means what? Fewer white guys, maybe even none. And then at the end of the quarter, they balloons and they're partying. We did it. 10% increase in diversity. So in other words, the translation, 10% increase in discrimination against white males in anti-whiteism. No hiring, no promotion, lower salaries. You even have, of course, you have these companies that are outright saying, being caught by like James O'Keefe, no white males. Vice President, no white males. Most of the time we don't actively say no white males, but sometimes we actively just say up front, no white males. Sometimes we don't even hire black males because they have some white male visible in them. That's how much we hate white people. White women out there still be like, so if you come across one of those, flee. If you're a young guy, middle-aged guy, old guy, whatever it is, that's my advice. As far as like career, education, schooling, only go to university or a college if you need the laboratories, because it's just massive debt that your education is not worth, especially if you're a white male, because you have to weigh a little bit of a complex math equation, how little value you are in the marketplace relative to the cost of that education. So the best thing to do is to get into a field of work or a trade that you enjoy and that you intend to make money for you, potentially in the long term, but will also provide you with a skill set that you can use whether you remain in the field or not. The other really important thing I would say to guys is that even in the best of times, you don't climb the ladder inside the company you're in. You climb the ladder inside parallel companies, same industry. So you have got to get into groups where you will be able to speak with people in your industry outside of your company. And then always be positioning yourself to take the next leap up the ladder, but laterally to another company. Don't do it so much that they begin to view you as untrustworthy if they employ you. But that's going to be the only way. People don't go like up the ladder in their own company. That's like winning a lottery. And that's the kind of stupid story that in places like America, they like to tell you about. They're like, if you just work hard in America, you'll go from the mailroom to the CEO. And here we'll talk to, Joe Schmo. He went from delivering newspapers and now he owns the media company. Nah. As far as the Hill, working on the Hill, it wasn't the corruption so much. It was the strategies that they employed that were totally gelded and intended to lose. So there's no hope in right-wing politics in the United States, anywhere, from what I can see from my perspective. But in the United States, zero possibility. They employ strategies that that you can articulate exactly how it will fail, and that's what they like. That's what they'll go with. So that's why I eventually said, well, there's nothing we can do here. I write about it in Born Guilty, available at nowhiteguiltcollectibles.com and also on Amazon. If you go to nowhiteguiltcollectibles.com, you can find a signed version. It takes a little bit longer to get it, but Amazon, you can get it right away. Great question. Thank you. Henry is with us, and he says he writes books. Currently writing a vampire story. What could I put in the stories to promote Go Free? Oh, that's a great question. You mentioned something about we should be producing Go Free stuff in entertainment. Well, are you practicing Go Free? If you are, that's a great opportunity to teach your reader about the practice by infusing that in a character that is going to be one of your heroes, one of your good guys, one of your principled people. So I don't know if in your books, are the vampires good guys? Is it vampires against vampires? Are the vampires bad guys? Are there good guys that slay the vampires? Whatever it is, doesn't necessarily have to be your protagonist, but a character that the reader is going to be able to identify with as a normal person in society. So the best way is, so it could be a protagonist, or it could be somebody that's associated with the protagonist that they're going to come across a lot. But it's like in Lord of the Rings, the story and a lot of well-read and I guess we could just generally say, just generally sort of broad brush, deep thinkers of fiction literature identify that the story ultimately is about Sam. Samwise, Sam. And the reason why is all of the other characters have magical abilities that people can't identify with. But Sam is a regular guy, and he saves the day because he can't carry the ring, but he can carry Frodo. And that's what you and I can do. So empower a character that the ordinary person in their lived experience can identify with, and then give them the tools of Go Free to make them extraordinary in your story so that they can mirror that in their life. If you give it to somebody who can sprout wings and fly, then that doesn't, that's not as powerful. You follow me? But thank you for asking. And if and when you do that, reach out to me and we'll take a look at it. That's awesome. Janice says, thank you for doing the stream tonight. Well, you're most welcome. Thank you for showing up. We are, we're having our soiree. It's our intimate soiree where the change agents of the world get together and chat about how to change the world. RJ or JK 160 is with us. Great to see you. Did you see how dumb the Fuentes set looks? He probably paid a lot of money for that. I saw a picture of it. Is it real? It's like all dark brown. And there's like, it looks like maybe it's a bit of a rainforest. He's got like tropical plants around him. First Last says, you can have a mentor, but not a surrogate. Yes, sir. Exactly. Davey says, that's spot on. To be a man, you must serve the well-being of your people. Well said, brother. Yeah, thank you for that. It is the equivalent of a woman carrying and giving birth to a child. That's how a woman really, now not all women are going to be able to give birth to a child. And I recognize that. And I did a specific video about not all women are cut out to be great mothers or to carry a child and give birth. It's reality. And they can contribute in a myriad of other ways, especially if they are really focused in certain areas that they can contribute, or even adopt children or whatever. It's kind of covered under the great mother category. But really the fulfillment of womanhood, the apex of it, is to bring forth sons and daughters of the West. Only they can do it. Only white males can be men of the West by serving the well-being of our people, which again, that is the opposite of complaining. You don't just get around and sit around and say, oh, the Jews are awful, or the blacks are bad, or that's nothing. Complaining? I mean, you can find children that do that. That's not being a man. It's not having a champion. You know, somebody that's going to do it all, that you believe is going to do it all for you. They're not going to do it all for you. You're lying to yourself and you know it. So you've got to be able to lock arms with other men of the West. That's what being a man is. Thank you. Truth is saying Tony Robinson types are selfish individualists, 100%. Samuski, you are 100% correct. I like to say that to love your people is the highest moral good. You're absolutely right. And I got that idea from you. Okay. Well, you're right. It is the highest moral good. Sinkoi is with us. Hello. Helios Abbott, can non-white males be men of the West by doing the same? All men of all the different races can really only achieve that manhood by serving the well-being of their people. And here's an interesting reality of that. In the West today, if you are a, let's say, Hispanic American, you're non-white Hispanic, and you're looking out at the West deteriorating. And what is the West's deterioration? It is the deterioration of white norms, Western norms, white norms, of white mores. Then clearly, to serve the well-being of your people is to attack and destroy and combat and vie against anti-whiteism, because your people are going to find themselves in increasingly degenerate, destructive, uncivil, tyrannical, gladiatorial environments if anti-whiteism isn't defeated. So this is one of those concepts, and thank you for asking it. One of the dialectics, really a school of dialectics that I've shared over the years, and that a lot of people, because they're trapped in the anti-white narrative, initially find it hard to really follow. That all people of all races can and need to combat anti-whiteism to do good for their people in the West. That's where we are today. We don't need to worry about 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 500 years from now. That's where we are today. And being trapped in the anti-white narrative causes one to think in opposition that there needs to be something called racial nationalism that is understood to be the empowerment of one's race. So a zero-sum game against the other races of man. And that then ends up taking the form very often in that multiracial Jew-hating movement of race nationalists saying that we should be allies and fight against the purveyor of whatever, and you end up seeing the futility of this and childishness of this mindset. So they find it hard to kind of crawl out of that. Mature, healthy, moral people of all races can and need to recognize that the problem with society is anti-whiteism, and that we have to defeat it if we're going to save these countries that we all live in. So yeah, they need to do the same for their groups. Helios Abbott says, non-whites who adopt the West the same way parents who adopt children who aren't their own. That's, yeah, kind of, I guess. I mean, like if I've given the example a number of times of me in China. Say I moved to China, not going to, but if I did, and I said, I'm going to make China my home, and therefore I'm going to be the best Chinese citizen I can. If there were some school of thought in China that was detrimental to that society and therefore would become detrimental to me as a consequence, I would fight against that school of thought to preserve the society that gives me the environment I want to live in. I don't have to be genetically Chinese to want that. I just have to be maybe moral, because maybe, like if we were to make it a direct analogy, it's demonizing Chinese children on the basis of their birth. That would be totally immoral. So out of my morality, but then also out of my self-interest, because if that ideology, that school of thought is destroying the society that I want to live in, then if I don't defeat that ideology, then that society is destroyed. And I lose it too, not just the Chinese. Great question. Thank you. I love this idea that to be a true Westman, that to love your people is the highest moral good. And the same goes for women of the West. Absolutely. Yep, 100%. In fact, for our women, for white women, and we'll get to Bulldog's comments here in just a minute, there's potentially something else there that if in their thinking they are serving white well-being, especially while they are pregnant, this could mean something really beautiful and magical for the children. We've already begun to tease apart stressors, and unfortunately they're in some cases they're referring to it as genetic memory. I don't think that's an appropriate way because of it's misleading, but we're already beginning to tease apart that certain stressors on female animals when they are pregnant, but potentially, I mean, there's some speculation about even before they're pregnant, that those stressors, indeed those that drive, given the context, can communicate itself to the offspring and either turning on traits or off traits. So potentially, white women knowing and serving white well-being will produce stronger, more intelligent, longer-lived children than they would otherwise produce. And that's the kind of thing that for the long range, we have to keep in mind. You'll notice that this kind of talk isn't discussed in any pragmatic way anywhere else. And so more reason for anti-white oligarchs to shadow ban the empowerment of Western kind and push in your face ass-clapping, bikini-wearing dilettantes. May they make all the money and popularity they desire. The great Based White is pointing out that he learned of me from No White Guilt Clips posting. You see, that's how it happens. I mean, you make these efforts. You never know who you're going to bring in. You never know. I mean, Torba found out about me and us from Talk Heaven, posting a leaflet on a sign. Now, if Torba didn't have the influence of the boy groyping audience as heavily as he did, who knows what would have happened to Gab and Torba's interest. Instead, of course, he went the Christian nationalist route after the heavy influence of the boy groypers and become irrelevant. He could have used, Gab is going to just fade away. He could have used Gab and its algorithm to push something that is effective and healthy. He re-gabbed me. He posted that Talk Heaven's leaflet. So you never know who you're going to bring in. You got to make an effort, and then who knows? Somebody who's already filthy rich, somebody who is a mega genius, somebody who is like average intelligence, but has that creativity of the white race and figures something out. You never know. That's why we just have to keep trying as we are choked from both directions. You could bring in somebody awesome like Based White. Wouldn't that have been something, though, if Torba didn't have the America first? What is even that? What does that mean now? It's just a slogan that brings people in. It's just like saying Christ is king. It's just a slogan that brings people in. And all of the dilettantes do it. No substance. You just have a slogan that the average person can identify and then say, well, these must be my people. Vincent is here. Ivan. Andrew Torb 0. Exactly. What a shame that was, you know? The screen just jumped on me. Leonard's saying, did you know the IDF is struggling? They underestimated them in Gaza, took many casualties, and had to pass a law to enlist the Orthodox. Shortage of manpower. Bobby Boldly is here. Hello and welcome. I would think the tight quarters fighting in cities and towns was probably the kind of thing that's just going to cost a lot of lives to do in and of itself. And having a small population, you can have an imbalance in your readiness on all of your maybe defensive fronts. So if they had to draw troops from somewhere to help with that sort of door-to-door fighting, they couldn't allow certainly, I would imagine, with their border to the north, that they could allow the troop number to fall there, because by doing so, you encourage your opposition. You encourage your enemy. Weakness encourages the wolves to find you. Strength is what creates peace. All right, let's see what the great Bulldog Boris, another genius in our community. He says, when it comes to the anti-white propaganda term white privilege, I always reply, quote, white privilege is an anti-white propaganda term designed as an excuse to victimize white people, close quote. As a side note, I believe that complex language and complicated sentences should be avoided at all costs. 100%. 100%. That was one of the things that the academic peacocks disliked me the most for. They gained their popularity and aggrandizement and wealth in their think tanks by way of these really complex and ever-changing novelty takes. And I said, people can't reproduce that. They can't. I used to say all the time that people can't walk around with like a little Jared Taylor on this shoulder and a little whoever on that shoulder. They need something that directionally restricts the encourages outcomes that you want. In other words, thoughts that you want them to arrive at given their circumstance, and restricts them from thoughts that you don't want them to arrive at given the multifarious possibilities of their environments. So we can't know every scenario. You can't provide for that. You can't teach for that. So you can see how intellectually challenging that is. How do you then go about, you have what is seemingly an infinite number of possibilities in a person's lived experience, in-laws, outlaws, friends, neighbors, strangers, etc. You can't know. So how do you directionally empower people to ensure they come up with outcomes that will be beneficial for our people and therefore them? So that was the big challenge. And these people were like, no, it's just easier with maybe they have a solid, really powerful memory and they can just read tomes and then recite them ad nauseum and have people applaud them and say, oh, you're so smart. And so they said, well, we're just going to go that direction. But that's not how anti-whiteism defeated us. Anti-whiteism didn't defeat us because you could take very bright, devious anti-whites, thoroughly educated, and then go preach at a university or a think tank and be celebrated for how many books they've read, how many books are on their shelves, how tall their stack is. That's not how it beat us. It beat us with what I've referred to as thought chains that everyone, to various degrees, even midgetwits, could understand the directional instruction and then have the consequent deductions be restricted for them so that they couldn't go wrong. That's how we were beaten. So this is brilliant, written by Bulldog Boris. You can give your suggestions too. Turning MPs around. Remember, this is the nomenclature, a meme pathogen. Turning an MP around and articulating very simply and directly how it is anti-white and what its outcome achieves. And if you wanted to go deeper, to identify the celebration of that outcome and therefore the understanding of what the anti-whites really want, being able to do that in a conversation is going to really empower you to do good for our people and therefore yourself. Whereas something really complex is just going to confuse, and people will default to the anti-white narrative. Obviously, worst case scenario is playing the villain in the anti-white narrative by any of the means. Let's see. Our goal is not to sound fancy. Our goal is to reach the masses in a way most will understand and make it easy to pass on. If we make things too complicated, we will still be a movement, but never a big one, because the bigger masses can only digest things that are simple, short, and straight to the point. The meme curative for the meme pathogen affirmative action. He says, simply say, affirmative action is anti-white discrimination. Whites denied hire on the basis of their birth. How can you support that? That would make you anti-white. I've said those exact same words in so many iterations over the years, and always win. Now, again, you might come across an anti-white that says, yeah, it's good. So you just say, have a nice day. Move on to a sane person. The vast majority of people are going to not want to be, and then the people in this community have used the lexicon and the dialectics and have seen that at work. And so they can vouch, yes, this is exactly what happens. People don't want to be considered anti-anything, especially based on our brothers and sisters, especially based on birth. Another reason why it's so foolish to try to condemn every person that's born Jewish or every person that's born black. White people don't want to do that, which is why the content creators who are anti-Jewish or anti-black or what have you on the basis of birth rather than on the basis of whether or not they're anti-white, which is why those content creators have to tell their audiences, hide your power level. Don't tell family members because you want your family in your life. What's that admission of? That your family will disown you if you repeat this garbage. I mean, he says here, some more timestamp fun with additional commentary. He gives us timestamps, and this is all on threads from recent live streams. Let's learn how to become a strong people from the best. Let's understand the importance of achieving individual well-being by way of group well-being. Disadvantaged groups versus privileged groups. As a white person, understand that you've been lied to and subjected to anti-white propaganda since your early childhood. You've been told the lie that you belong to a privileged class, when in reality, you are, by means of anti-white policies and institutionalized anti-whiteism, a member of a disadvantaged group. Understand that you've been gaslit into believing that you belong to the privileged, while in reality, non-whites are receiving privileges left and right on the altar of anti-whiteism. The pressure must become so great that politicians are forced to say things like, quote, anti-whiteism is wrong. You shouldn't condemn white people on the basis of their birth. They shouldn't be kept out of work. They shouldn't be kept out of promotion. They shouldn't be kept out of government contracts. They should be allowed to have their own dating sites. They should be allowed to have their own churches. They are like any other group of people, close quote. Another timestamp. Our fight is only going to be won by winning the morality war. Exactly. As it stands today, anti-whiteism is perceived by the masses as a moral behavior, is in the lead as the moral behavior. But by using the Go Free lexicon, that wrong perspective will be crushed by the correct perspective that anti-whiteism is immoral, emerges, and it is the antidote to make our brothers and sisters snap out of their anti-white brainwashing. We take them out of their hypnosis, by showing them that they have been hypnotized into hating themselves and their own people. When Jason refers to us as heroes, he is not bluffing. As white well-being advocates, we are saying our people one by one, we are saving our people one by one from their anti-white programming. We are deprogramming our people from the virus of anti-whiteism that they all have been programmed and infected with. As the virus of anti-whiteism in the majority of our people becomes weaker and weaker, our people will naturally become stronger and stronger. And that's exactly what I was saying a little while ago, that we spread this, I said, and make anti-whiteism weaker, conquering it, and then everything is possible. All of these older vehicles, all of everything, and new vehicles, new ideas suddenly sprout, because just like on the battlefield, a commander can't know every detail or all of the details in every single scenario and on a battlefield, and that's why those on the field are given a leeway to make decisions given their situation. So people with knowledge looking at the field that is before them are going to have a much higher chance of resolving that field than somebody miles and miles and miles back. A sad truth, however, is that to deprogram an entire people may take decades, but at least we have started the process, and only the future will show whether we will truly succeed or not. But the recipe for victory, the antidote, the key, has been created by Jason, thank you, Bulldog, with his hard work. And as long as the antidote is spread to enough people, there will always be hope. There is no guarantee, but our people can reach victory. But it may not happen in our lifetime, and you'll have to be okay with that. That's a very mature way to wrap that comment up. We have seen that the lexicon and dialectics can spread very rapidly with a small number of people, which is exactly what I said would happen. So you can imagine, as we continue to push, and potentially if more people come on board and maybe select really magnificent champions come on board, how much quicker we can make change. Having said that change can happen rapidly, and we've seen it all the way up to the most influential guy on planet Earth today, Donald Trump, saying that there's an anti-white feeling that can't be allowed. Direct consequence of our swashbuckling, of our efforts. Having said that, the true remedy that you would like to see, the full capture of our destiny, might happen after our lifetimes. And that's what real heroes are able to, number one, be okay with their resolution to fight, even though the full recapture won't be seen in their lifetime, or possibly in their lifetime. And the courage to move forward, even though their efforts are for later generations. But you don't need to worry about, that's something, like Bulldog says, that you got to be okay with. You have to be prepared to accept. But the reality also is what we've seen with our own two eyes, that the claims that we have to, this is going to move too slow, we've got to get violent now, none of that has ever gone anywhere except to jail, except to prison. This is going to move too slow. We've got to create a political party. No political parties. Doxings. People going to jail. People losing livelihoods. All of that, we have to move fast, has never had any substance. It's just this, it's just a tantrum by an adult child. This is fast. I mean, think about it. Just 7 years on the internet, just 7 years. And we have the most influential guy on the planet using the lexicon. And you look at elsewhere, you look all around the globe, working across language barriers, showing up everywhere. So who knows? Who knows? Since it is a curative contagion and is getting adopted everywhere, who knows how rapidly this could happen? You could imagine Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, I mean, people all over the place start using the lexicon, and it would immediately be legitimized for millions of supporters. That means in every Fawkes festival, Guy Fawkes, every Thanksgiving, every Australia Day, everywhere, families, white families are saying enough is enough with the anti-whiteism. No more white erasure. Man, like this. Certainly compared to the historical time frame. But nothing else has ever shown so much ability to transform our lives and our world so quickly. Nothing ever has. Look at how long everything else has taken that even succeeded in the world. And also, not only that, but how much money and energy had to be put behind it. And in many cases had to be forced on populations. So this is a real opportunity for Westmen, men, women, and children, to take our destiny back from those who would rob us of everything. And I want to point something else here out about Bulldog Boris. This is what I want. I want heroes. I don't want somebody to show up and badger other content creators saying, Jason is my king. I don't want that. I want hero, because what is that going to do for our people? Nothing. Nothing. That's not going to stop them old people from New Zealand being beaten and robbed and run over with a car and murdered. That's not going to stop that. That's not going to stop the little white kids from coming home and saying, I don't want to be white. How long do I have to be white? Why can't I be that other race of people at my school? Dying inside in the spring of their life, and you don't get another one? Not people going around and saying, like, Jason is my king at other audiences isn't going to change any of that. But heroes will. People who come here and become heroes in our story will change that. And that's what brings me the greatest pleasure, is the prospect of that injury, and in particular, that child abuse being gutted. Because I want to see those white little boys and little girls grow up and just, with their morality, with their love, with their talents, just set fire to everything that has decayed and ruined our people, and take it all back. And there's going to be a lot of variety there. The human animal is very complex. You look at our race, and every little region has its own little quirks. Every little region has its own little ideas about maybe what this should be called or what flag. There's going to be a lot of variety still. But they'll know that we are all united in the most fundamental thing, the thing we absolutely cannot change, the thing we are born with as Westmen, that biospirit of the West that produces Western culture and Western civilization. That is truly getting back at the anti-whites. sitting around and saying that Jewish people are ugly or blacks are ugly or they're this or they're that. That does nothing. That does nothing at all. And that's the alternative you have out there in the world. Or this vapid, we have to put America first as this container, this matrix for complaints about other groups of people. That does nothing. So big salute to Bulldog Boris. And sometimes you see him in the live chat, but he's often in the threads afterward. Trump condemning anti-whiteism is really one of the largest dividers of positivity and negativity. The concept of it distinct from J-spurging, from a J lover, according to Whitnegs. Yes, Trump condemning anti-whiteism is one of the largest dividers of positivity and negativity. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and you'll notice as Sloth's statement is illustrating there, as well, is that when you get embroiled in villain role playing, you end up seeing the world as, in this particular case, either against Jews or for Jews. And that is, how can I articulate how objectionable I find that? Living as a shadow of another people in another people's telling of history and their folklore, I find that so pathetic. It's just hard to articulate, even for me. The feelings I get from that, I can't. It's to be nothing. It's really to be nothing. Let other people live in the periphery of our story. No way. I mean, these people are the personification of the, what is the German? They like to use that Übermensch. Is it Untermensch? Like the underman. It's the personification of the underman to live in somebody else's story by their folklore, by their telling of history. I don't know. To be an NPC, to be without a soul, to be without substance. That's why I say it's like shadow haunting. It's to have no substance. You need this other people to have your tangibility, what little there is there. You need them to be. Ivan says, yeah, it's Untermensch. Or is, yeah, Untermensch. Sloth says, intellectual peacocks try to use novelty for credibility of heresy to anti-whiteism. I know it will not work. Precisely. Yeah, very well put. Yeah, those endless novelty takes. They're intoxicating in a negative way, like drinking gasoline. If Wellbeing for White People was a pyramid scheme, Clips would have a garage of Lamborghinis. Says Slots. Yes, he would. That's how awesome No White Guilt Clips is. Yep. All right, let me take a quick look. Then we're going to roll out. Everybody's going to have a wonderful Independence Day. We should all, like, it'd be great to celebrate the birth of all of our countries. Who else do we have here? Let's see if we got any tags on Twitter. Energy of the Universe is saying that Johnny Cash was a liberal. I didn't know that. I don't know a whole lot about his life or any. He's gone, and it was just the songs that I like. Some of his songs, especially some of them, are pretty funny. I'm just looking for tags. I don't see any tags over here yet. Okay. Daughter of Eve got back to us, and good to see you, Daughter of Eve. She got back and she said that I was not suggested on Twitter. Does anybody here learn of me from me being suggested to you on Twitter? We've done these tests where I will tweet and have people who follow me, and not only people who follow me, but have clicked the bell, and see if they get my tweets, and the majority don't. So, but I go on Twitter, and like when Lily was skyrocketing, I don't show interest. Like on Twitter, I'm not giving interest on Twitter to newbie women, new females coming into. I don't give any interest to it. But she was recommended again and again and again. Hawked a girl again and again and again and again, put in my face over and over and over. Tag me as No White Guilt. If anybody, and let me know if you came to find out who I am because Twitter recommended my Twitter account. Meanwhile, you have no idea how much money I spend on promoting us and this community on Twitter. A lot. So Twitter's making bank for what it's, my tier, I guess, off of me as we push and push. Helio Sabbath says he found Jason so long ago he can't remember. YouTube was a different place in those days. Yeah. First Last says Shadow Prancer. Yeah, that's kind of like what they are. They're shadow prancing around. And it really makes you wonder, would these people, the multiracial Jew-hating movement, would they cease to exist if Jewish people just developed a spacecraft and flew away? Where would they, what would happen, really? Would they cease to be? I don't know, because they don't exist without them. The Untermensch. Everything you're saying about shadow haunting, only this community understands. Wow. That's like a, Sloth says, that's a painful truth. That is, that's a painful truth to think about. Because like I said this Sunday, We're like looking out at the tarred farm that's below us. You know, that's where everybody is living. And some of them, like these shadow prancers, as First Class would say, they have this arrogance of thinking that they know it all. It's like a 5-year-old trying to tell you how it is. Some of them have that level of maturity. Probably most of them. What is the Cadillac song that Johnny Cash does? That's funny. He puts that he puts that Cadillac together like over a span of 30 years working at the factory. Oh, Lincoln? Maybe that's what it was. I remember it has 2 headlights on one side, one on the other. All right. I don't see anybody else here. Let's look over here. Do we have anybody under the thread on Twitter? Nope. I'm sure they're watching something really valuable somewhere else. Kind of like the time that Salty Cracker and his colossal live audience were mocking iHeartMedia for showing that picture. That was one of the biggest days to really draw that dividing line between what we do and the doom documenters and doom dissectors. It was like 30,000+ people watching live, and he was making jokes for low IQ, the midget wits out there in his audience to laugh at, about iHeartMedia showing the picture of the white boy beating up another white child on the bus for the story about the black kid beating up a white little girl, the black boy beating up a white little girl. What was it, like a 15-year-old and like a 6-year-old or something like that? And I reached out to iHeartMedia using our verbiage, and iHeartMedia changed the image. What a difference. We have he's got like 30,000+ on that particular show. Sometimes he has 40,000+ live. We have like 100. And iHeartMedia immediately responds and yields to us. All right. Looks like I didn't miss anybody else on any of these other. Wait, let me check that. All right. Didn't miss anything here on entropy. I'll take a look at the live chat one more time. As we get ready to let the Abrams tank let loose, our fireworks are going to be real loud. Slaud says he's burning with desire to conquer anti-whiteism. He says, I seriously carry myself regally as I age. Magnificent. Happy Independence Day to you too, good sir. Yep, our independence from anti-whiteism. That's what we can all celebrate all the way around the world. The fireworks tomorrow can be our people's independence. And it sure will be something when they trace it back and they wonder, how did we get to this point that Western kind's recapturing its destiny? They trace it all the way back to this valiant, courageous, effective, brilliant community that was studiously ignored by the do-nothings out in the world. Fantastic data. Big happy independence from anti-whiteism to all of you. Set off your fireworks with that in mind. Be back with you all on Sunday, unless something very unusual happens. Keep your eyes open, and remember, we're making the second half of this year truly magnificent. Roll out.
Some call me a good time fella. I ain't black and I ain't yellow. I'm a white man looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they're getting. Cause I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing.
Hold on. We're going to celebrate. Celebrate Shannon, our great brother. $20 financial gift coming in here late. God bless him. Get out your trophies. $20 financial gift. He says, for white well-being, thank you, Jason. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. Big salutes.
They're getting, cause I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. Well, I said a few things